From a radio studio on Long Island, New York, come two diehard fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else in their distorted minds, it's Brando and Scotto.
'Cause you know what the fuck you are!
And this is Appetite for Distortion.
Try it again!
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando. With me is my partner in perfect crime. You like that?
Yeah, well done.
Name of the song. You get it?
I get it.
All right. I know I'm over explaining this because I'm very proud of it. Because I was thinking about that for like a week. What am I going to say?
Partner in perfect crime.
Scotto, comma, Ian. What's going on, buddy?
Doing good, man. You know what's funny? You know how last episode we had corrections and all that?
Yeah.
I feel like I have to apologize to you because I listened back to that last episode and I correct you at the beginning.
Yeah, you did.
And because you were like, with myself, Brando, and the way you said it was fine listening back. But anyway, I came off as a dick. I listened back and I'm like, why am I fucking correcting him? He sounds fine. So anyway, we're excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate that anyway. But yeah, just to think, because we're recording this on a Saturday night, we're always going to, no fourth wall. This is how is this live? It's a freaking podcast.
Yeah.
A week ago that we were in MetLife Stadium at Guns N' Roses. And we have a guest, and we're going to get to him in a little bit. I mean, if you want to like just cough and say hi, that's fine. We're not going to pretend you're a fern in the back.
Hello.
Oh my God. Although I'm not sure if his name is John Miller or if it's Mr. Smith from The Matrix, because you kind of look like that.
I've heard that before.
Okay.
Yes. I'll take John Miller to speak.
Okay, fair enough.
But yes,
And you know what's the cool thing? Like usually when we have a guest on, like Anthony Boza, there was some background with him. Like there was some friendship there, me and him. Same with Jason. John is just a guy that like Jason
we found on the road.
But Jason Schultz, but when we first had him on, was like, dude, you don't want me on the podcast. Like this is the guy that you want on. So we were like, all right, we'll do it. We're gonna have John Miller on. And just talking to you in like the 5-10 minutes we did before we started recording here, I realized like, okay, I totally get why Jason wanted this guy on. Like he knows GNR. More than myself and Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into, because you were at both shows.
I was in both. Yeah, I know.
Plus Detroit.
Yeah.
And the first show.
And Landover. And,
what the hell, man?
And Las Vegas.
Why? We need to be friends. like blood friends or whatever.
Right.
We'll have to sacrifice a chicken later. So we're going to talk to you later, and also an awesome project you're doing concerning Axl in a little bit. But in the meantime, just hang out, because Scotto and I, we haven't seen each other since we both went to the Saturday show, but we did not sit together.
But we hung out before the show.
Yeah, we went to, I guess, everybody was, having hot dogs and hamburgers and tailgating.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
Which I had to be a part of, because it's also like if you've been a fan of this group, or at least of, the group under the Guns N' Roses name, let's say, for the past few years, and you go to a show, there wasn't any tailgating or any of that going on. For the most part, it was a way more like of a low-key vibe. But here, this was like a show that everybody and their mother was at, literally.
It was when we spoke to Jason Schultz, the photographer, when he said he went to that first show, that it was more than a concert and it was an event. This was an event. I haven't been to anything like this. Not a concert.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to tailgate at sporting events.
Sure.
But not like this. I mean, it was crazy. You would see so many tents set up and just not. I was expecting everybody to blast Guns N' Roses. I mean, pathetically, I was. I listened to all on the way there as I went with my brother and my two friends who actually went to go get married the day before in Connecticut, and this was my wedding gift to them. But I only drove with my brother. They met up with us later. So my brother's in my passenger seat playing Pokemon Go. I was very jealous because I like Pokemon Go. Don't judge me.
You know what it is?
Gotta catch them all, goddammit.
You're like because I remember I heard your brother saying he's kind of a millennial because he's younger. You're like the oldest millennial. Like, I don't think we're able to consider ourselves more. Yeah,
Several.
But dude, every 2 seconds, Brandon's like, I'm on Snapchat. I'm on Pokemon Go. And I'm like, I'm too old for this shit.
It's not being a millennial. It's being a nerd, loser, geek. Like, not like it's different. I'm like how hipsters are cool now. No, I was hip before the hipsters happened, and I was made fun of and shoved in lockers. No, it's cool to be like that. No, go fuck yourself. I played Pokemon Go when it was not for cool people. Now it's
no, you played Pokemon.
I played Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like play Pokemon Go before it was cool. It's only been around for what, a couple of weeks.
You know
now?
what I mean? We're getting off on a tangent, but he was playing Pokemon Go, and I was driving there. We listened to all of Use Your Illusion 1 because all my brother knew. He's 24 are the singles. Welcome to Jungle, Paradise City, everything you hear on the radio all the time.
I get it.
But he was excited to go, and I'm like, you got to listen to the Illusion. So we got through all of the Illusion 1 in half the second by the time we got there. I don't know how much he was paying attention, but he was enjoying it. So you picked me up because we had to meet up at different lots, and everyone's blasting different music. I mean, you hear Tool from one tent, you hear Metallica from another, Sabbath, and everyone, it's just having such a great time. People throwing water balloons, and it's just, it didn't hit me then because it's like, oh my God, like it's still cool, but it was just seeing MetLife Stadium, and I haven't been there in a few years.
And also,
but it was just like, I'm like, wow, like this is going to happen. They haven't canceled the door yet.
Beyond everybody like blasting their type of music, because I think the idea is, hey, we're going to go inside, we're going to see Guns N' Roses for nearly 3 hours, so let's listen to some other stuff. It was one of those few concerts where you saw it was definitely not uncool to be wearing a Guns N' Roses shirt.
No, and I don't like when people, it's from the joke from PCU, where are you the guy that wears the band of the shirt to the show? You know what? Go screw.
You know what though?
Okay, it's like being a sports fan. If I'm an Islander fan, I'm gonna wear an Islanders jersey. I'm a fan of Guns N' Roses. I'm gonna wear the shirts. That's what it is.
I agree on some level, but I think usually I kind of get it because, yeah, dude, if you meet a chick at a show, you know you're all there for Guns N' Roses. But if a girl is wearing like a shirt of some obscure hair band that someone like me would be into, you might be like, hey, I'm a fan of them too. I don't know, like, but the point I'm saying is kind of, I think usually you go to these shows of other bands, and it is kind of uncool to wear the shirt of the band, but it's certainly not with Guns N' Roses because this was such an event that people were waiting months and in some case years for. So
yeah, no, I was waiting when it was announced. You and I were talking even before we decided on a podcast. And you, even though we were both on the first pre-sale, you got great seats. Where were you sitting?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I was on the floor.
Okay,
not GA, not the thing behind GA, the other one. I don't remember exactly what section that was.
Brilliantly explained.
Yeah, it was pretty damn close though.
But I guess to explain, if you've never been to MetLife Stadium, it's a typical football stadium. It's where the Jets and the Giants play.
It's where the Paradise City video was filmed.
But not the original, because that was Giant Stadium.
Yes, yeah.
So, but I mean, it's still where the Giants play. It's the same thing.
Sure.
And for me, I haven't spoken about it on this podcast, and very awkwardly sometimes in the radio, I got handicap seats, and not because mentally, I've physically handicapped. I have a neurological disability that requires me to use a cane, and it's hard for me to get up and down steps without a railing. And railings I trust, so I usually don't get that because I'm usually like all right depending upon where the seats are. But I'm like, this is just going to be too crazy. And my last experience at MetLife Stadium was not pleasant. So what was cool for this, I wanted to be close. You were the only one who was going to spend a crazy amount of money other than myself. So nobody else wanted to go to spend that kind of money and go. So I guess when you when you walk down through the hallway, and you can either go down steps to seats or you can, hook a right or a left and go up to seats. And it's usually like that for any stadium. Mine is just that area. And there's like a chalked off little place where they take out folding chairs. And you're assigned seat if you're in a wheelchair. That's your given seat.
Yeah,
it's always on you. Or if you're a friend, a family, they get folding chairs. So was
your
great.
Brother had a
and my two friends. And I was worried because sometimes people think I'm like Kaiser Soze and I'm faking it because I can speak well and I'm not in a wheelchair.
And you walk around fine for the most part.
Yeah, I have a limp. Some people honestly think I've been told this. Are you walking like a brother? I'm like, I've had some girls think I'm somebody. Mina Sawat, who's used to work with us at Sirius, and now I believe she's a radio girl doing mornings in Philly. When I first met her, I had the cane, and she just looked at me, started smiling. I was like, oh yeah, and she's like, oh, I thought that was a pimp cane. I was like, well, maybe like 14% of it. It's like, whatever, man. But it was awesome because nobody's in front of me, just except the railing, and nobody's behind me. So I have all the area just to enjoy.
And by dropping you off, I got to park right next to
handicap. So I get handicap seats.
Which is pretty cool for me, too.
Ladies, when you ride with me, you ride in style. It is awesome. But that's when it hit me for the show. And we can bring in, unless you have anything else to say before we bring in John, that's when it hit me when I went in through and I saw my seats and I could see, because we got there early, I wanted to see Lenny Kravitz. hopefully without his pants ripping and his his half Jewish wiener just hanging out. Did you see that video? No. Am I the only one who saw Lenny Kravitz when he?
I have not seen that.
Oh, he was rocking out, and then his cock came out. Like his leather pants split open. This was like a few months ago, maybe less than a year ago. Yeah, he just like did a split and went wee, and then the wiener just like folded out.
He was good, by the way.
What?
He was awesome. The only thing that I noticed that was kind
of nice segue to get out of the wiener talk. So.
Yeah. The one thing I noticed that was strange about his performance for me, and it was a good performance, like because you guys heard me on the podcast say like, I don't really care about seeing him, but I had a good time.
I did.
I enjoyed him, but he didn't play. Is it called Getaway or? I
thought I heard that.
Fly Away?
Yeah, he didn't play that. He played it night 2.
Oh, okay.
Because I noticed, my friend Sam sent me something about that song.
He only played like 2 or 3 hits. And he had like a huge like jam session. I was like, what is Bruce Springsteen playing? He's like jamming for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, during Let Love Live, he seems to do that during that song.
I still enjoyed it a lot.
But yeah, so my friend Sam sent me something regarding that song. We were talking about something totally different. And while I was listening to it, I was like, wait, he didn't play this when I saw him.
No.
And I was like, am I losing my mind here? Why would he not play this? This was like probably his second or third biggest hit.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the set list and I was like, yeah, he didn't play it. He played it the second night, which that was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird that at least he played his biggest hit. I wish for some reason.
Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Right.
Or Go My Way?
No, Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Yeah.
Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other hits that I would have wished he would have played, but I mean,
American Woman cover. That's a big one.
He did play that though.
Yeah, I know.
But I still really, really enjoyed it, and he was happy to be there. That he's from Brooklyn. He went to high school with Slash.
And also, it's like the most ethnically diverse band on the planet.
Yeah,
like you have a woman who looks like a Buddhist monk on the bass.
She's well known in the musical community, I believe. I mean, my wife was asking one of her musician friends, and like, oh yeah, that's whatever her name is. And
okay,
she's awesome.
It's weird,
great band.
But there's like black, Asian, white members of that band. It's just funny to see.
It's the Captain Planet of bands.
Then again, so is Guns N' Roses currently.
Yeah, no, currently, absolutely. So that's when it hit me, and you can tell me. When if it did, maybe weeks before, because it didn't dawn on me until I walked down that hallway and I just saw that stadium, which was yet to be filled, and just seeing Guns N' Roses logos anywhere, I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. This is it. And then I was, my brother made fun of me. He's like, you're acting like a teenager getting a boner for the first time. Like I was just bouncing around.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
I get it. I don't know if I had that specific moment other than I could think of is like, when the lights went out, when you saw that Guns N' Roses logo with all the different guns going off, and then you heard the Looney Tunes intro, and I was like, this is it, man. It's happening. So that's what I would point to. Did you have something in particular where it hit? Well, before Detroit is when it probably hit you.
Because you had 2 shows before?
No, 3. So I went to Vegas. I went on April 8th.
What the hell?
Yeah. Listen, did you guys...
I'm so jealous.
Well, did you have any idea that April Fool's was going to happen at the Troubadour?
Yeah,
just through the interwebs.
Okay, I mean, I denied it. I'm like, no, because there was so much talk, like something's happening. They shut down that night, special event, and I would have hopped on a plane, but then my cousin decides to get married that weekend. He sends an invite out about 3 weeks beforehand, and so of course I'm from Virginia originally. So I drove down to Virginia, and then it's unloaded on me, tonight. April Fool's
Unbelievable.
At the Troubadour. My wife's uncle, who lives in Studio City, he's like, Johnny, I'm sure you're here in LA, right? There's a big event happening at the Troubadour, and he's just rubbing it in because he knows I'm dying. And so yeah, but really Las Vegas was that was it for me. I went by myself, and just sort of let it soak in. I mean, but.
Did it take anything away? Because that's when he was in the chair and broke his leg. So did that change anything for you? Because the Troubadour, I don't know if anybody could have that experience again, because that was up close and personal.
Right.
And that's the first show. Las Vegas is still awesome, but he was in that chair. That's like a weird dynamic.
That show, because I knew it was going to start late. That was not an early. That started almost at midnight.
Okay.
And so I got to Vegas the night before. There was a big gathering at the New York casino of fans. Everyone decked out in their shirts, and I recognize people from so many other shows at the Joint and whatnot. But so the next day I had all day to just goof off. And so I did my own thing, went out to the desert for a little bit and figured I could get back and rest up and all. And I get back and Facebook and all the fan sites are just flooded with Axl's tweet. Something about this is what happens when you don't do it for 23 years.
Sure.
And then they showed he's and then I have
the X-ray of his foot, right?
Yeah. And then I have a friend who got the special VIP seats, and he says Axl's in a wheelchair. I mean, at least he's going to perform, but Axl's in a wheelchair.
Right.
And I was just glad he could still do it and didn't cancel. And so when the lights went out, you could see about 6 guys hauling that massive structure. And so I'm looking at Axl sitting there. He's got his hat on, and you could tell, you could feel the anxiety if it was there. That, he's going to make this the best that it can be because there's no other choice. And he even started talking before any music or anything. What do you guys think of my chair or something like that? And people were starting to crack up. And then when it starts going, he put so much energy into It's So Easy that it was unbelievable. You got over it right away.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
was that the show that Dave Grohl was at? Because I know him and Taylor were invited.
Yes. I didn't stay for the second night. I unfortunately flew back. But I think he was at the first show. I wasn't close. I didn't get a pit ticket, so I couldn't tell.
Isn't that weird? Because there used to be animosity between
Grohl it's very
and
weird.
Axl. What?
Because of Nirvana?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, that moment of him screaming at him at the MTV Awards.
Hi, Axl.
Yeah,
Hi, Axl.
That grates me.
Yeah.
I mean, through the years, things change, I'm sure.
I mean, I guess if Grohl and Courtney Love can get over it, I mean, anybody can. But
have they completely, or?
I mean, at least for publicity.
Okay.
But it's still a weird where we've come. When Ian and I we first met, even though we both worked at Sirius, we first met at the Roseland show with Ashba, and it's just it would never happen. And I think he shortly after did that metal show, and you'd see him. He invaded the MyGNR forum, calling Slash a cancer, and this is really never going to happen. I can only have dreams of Guns N' Roses getting back together, and look where we are right now.
Right.
It's just fascinating. So, I mean, you still saw a really unique experience because even though I've seen the Foo Fighters before, part of me really wish I went to Citi Field to go see him rock out in that chair because that's still you have unique experiences that nobody else has.
When you said you would have gotten on the plane for that first show in California, the thing is, I definitely would have too, but it was also so hard to get there. There was no guarantee that you were going to get into that thing. When I heard of it, because I remember going on my GNR forum. We talk about them every show because they're the best.
Right.
There were pictures of people camped out at what was 6 a.m. California time.
Yeah.
Waiting in line. And the thing is, what if you
it was probably
flew all
even
the way
earlier.
there, didn't get into the Troubadour? You know what your only other option was? Your only other option would have been going to the Whiskey A Go-Go and seeing that shitty Guns N' Roses cover band.
Right, well.
Imagine, I would want to shoot myself in the face if I went all the way to California to see the reunited Guns N' Roses and I saw some tribute band at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
It would have been a story. He may not have enjoyed it at the time, but it would have been a story. But what I did was stay up late and look at 2016 and watching the entire show on Periscope.
Yeah.
But John,
I didn't see the show on Periscope, but I just clips, but I didn't even know that was happening.
No, I couldn't sleep that night, and on Periscope, everyone's Periscoping it, and I'm watching it, and I couldn't get over it.
And then the tickets went on sale the next day.
Yeah.
Because remember, you and I
right.
were talking about, we're like, who's this chick on stage? What do you think? Why aren't Axl and Slash really bonding so much? And I remember that same day that we're having this conversation, we're having the conversation of did you get tickets? Were you able to get tickets? Were you able to get in? So...
You're just seeing them on stage. That was the phenomenon.
I couldn't believe that it was real.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it was real either. I mean,
to me, that was crazier actually than being at Giant Stadium. Even though I was there for Giant Stadium, it was this is real. This is really, even if it's just me watching these videos on a monitor on YouTube.
Because it can't be photoshopped. Remember that picture that went around?
Yeah.
That was
people believe that.
They did.
I did too for a second.
Yeah, and I had to burst your bubble. I remember that. You sent me the picture. I'm like, it's photoshopped. I mean, I believed in it too for half a second. I mean, it was a good Photoshop job.
Right.
But John, I want to introduce you more because you're mentioning, your uncle works at Sound City.
No, he lives in Studio City.
Oh, Studio City.
My wife's uncle. So I say I have family in California.
Okay, because he went to all these different shows. So you obviously have a tie with Guns N' Roses. Who are you?
I'm a guy from Richmond, Virginia originally, and I moved here 21 years ago and to study acting and acted for a long time. But I'm crazy about Guns N' Roses and.
Favorite band or just one of the many, like?
Of course, they're my favorite.
Okay.
I mean,
I've never seen that shirt you're wearing before.
This is from The Joint. This is from The Joint. Second to last night.
Okay.
I know because I saw the back.
It looks like Rob Zombie kind of art.
It does.
It's. I don't know. There's something. My wife says these are two for the eyeballs popping out. Of course, they're two phalluses. She always,
That's actually
she's gonna hate me for mentioning that. But this kind of artwork, it's sort of like a '70s style.
It's like when Beavis and Butthead went on the acid trip in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, but
you're better than me. There's
something about the cartoony kind of thing that would come in. You get these model cars and stuff in the '70s that would have this design on the box.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
I actually have to ask you one thing because I know we're getting nervous.
We're going to ask him several
We're getting so ADD here, but it's also like the audience has to realize this is the first time we're meeting John.
Yes,
like
and
ever.
I've never even had a phone conversation. First of all.
Yeah, I've never even had a conversation with you, so it's the audience is really experiencing getting to know John just like we are.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, since you're older than myself and Brando, did you get to see the original GNR?
No, I did not, and that's probably why I'm as crazy about it right now. I mean, I blew it. I mean,
did you have opportunities to?
Sure. My classmates, they saw the Appetite lineup at Hampton Coliseum. They saw Illusions. These are close friends of mine. Went up to the Cap Center. They saw when Axl dove into the crowd at the Cap Center.
Oh wow.
And I didn't do it. And I'm an asshole like that. I avoid shit on purpose because it's very popular.
Okay.
I mean, I got hit with Appetite when I was 16 years old, and it really put the hook in me. It came at the perfect moment in my life, when you need something like that. Like I'm curious about you guys. How did you guys? Y'all are younger than me. Are you in your 30s yet?
I'm 30. Yeah.
I'll be 33 in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you, if we may ask?
I'm 44 years old.
Great. A silver fox.
Yes. Yeah. I'm lucky I'm not grayer than I am, but
It reminds me of, oh my God, I keep forgetting the name of that band. It's going to escape me. He came up with the grunge band, but you're like a thinner version of that guy who has the crazy gray hair. Why am I forgetting it? He's like in every VH1 special about grunge.
I don't
Buzz
know.
Something,
But
whatever.
people aren't seeing John. He's not Andy
I have
from Cooper.
gray
Jesus
hair.
Christ.
I'm trying to set the scene.
No, but it's true.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
And he looks like Mr. Anderson.
If I had my longer hair, I played Agent Smith in a live promo of it years ago. And
Did you?
I got paid to be in.
Awesome.
And I knew I would get the role. It was an easy grand. So.
Awesome.
That's sick.
So, but yeah, we spoke about it, I believe, the first show. It's weird how we got into it because they broke up when we were younger. My first cassettes, I was thinking about this the other day, were Ace of Base, Heavy D and the Boys, Boys to Men. I mean, I liked rock and roll. I think I was into Green Day and Aerosmith really before Guns N' Roses, but I think becoming more of an adolescent, I got angrier, and which is like usually, I guess, the case. And I was always more drawn to rock anyway. And I just remember asking my friend, who I told you, who I watched get married, and the gift to them was the MetLife show that we went together. I said, "What GNR album should I get?" Because I knew the singles. And he's like, I listed singles. Of course, most of them were off Appetite. And then I fell in love. And I really gotten, years later, I had an ex-girlfriend who was obsessed, and she really got me even more into it.
Right.
So, and I think just going the radio route and the music route, out of all the bands, young and old and new and in different genres, they, for whatever reason, just, I feel so, I identify with them the most, even though it was before my time, which I always like. Because especially now when you see younger kids who like Zeppelin, who are like the Doors bands, that they will never see. So I always like everyone's, tale of woe. I don't know if that's the right phrase for this, but just journey. How
no,
they
but I love that it's because I believe that it's timeless. I believe that what they do, they tap into like a timeless essence or quality in their sound that that isn't
dated.
Yeah, it's not dated at all.
Yeah.
It's not kind of bookmarked because you can see a lot of bands from that era. Because I was lucky enough to interview Phil Collins the other day. Not Collins, but I didn't meet Phil Collins once, but Phil Collins from Def Leppard.
Okay.
And to me, bless them, they'll be more famous and have more money than I ever will, and slept with more girls than I'll ever see. But they sound like they're an '80s band forever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Guns N' Roses. Even if it's Appetite, The Illusions, and even Chinese Democracy, I can listen to that whenever.
It's so weird how
they're so unique.
How there's certain music that really is timeless, and that it doesn't matter when it was put out. Because I'll tell you this, for example, I love Pink Floyd. You listen to Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall, they don't sound like old albums necessarily. But then the funny thing is, you put on those songs like "Learning to Fly" from Momentary Lapse of Reason, right? Is that the name of the album? Mm-hmm. It sounds very 80s. So it came out after that stuff, but yet it sounds dated somehow. Just the same way I've heard people say the Chinese Democracy sounds dated to them.
Which is weird.
Bizarre to me.
Because it sounds like it was made in Dimension X.
But
I don't feel like it has a date to it.
I think people feel like the synthesizer stuff, and I don't know. But I was going to say, in terms of like getting into the band after they were, after they broke up and everything. What you just said about his shirts, the Beavis and Butthead looking thing from when, from the movie when they're transformed into that Rob Zombie looking thing, it just reminded me. I remember buying a Beavis and Butthead comic book when I was a young kid, and I swear I remember seeing an ad in there for the spaghetti incident.
Okay.
And I wish I still had that. But so even though we're younger, I still do remember, and I've said this before, like when November Rain was in heavy rotation on MTV. Right. And I remember thinking, this is awesome. Because that stayed in heavy rotation for years.
That's how I felt. I'm like, this is awesome. And when you're trying to find yourself as an adolescent, I'm like, I want to be Axl Rose.
But I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan, I wouldn't say, until years later. I
appreciated it more
Appetite,
years later. But
yeah, I bought Appetite way down the line. I don't even remember what year. I bought Appetite used at Mr. Cheapo in Mineola. I remember that.
Mr. Cheapo, sure.
I still go there regularly, man. I love that. I discovered so much music from that place. And I remember the first CD I ever bought myself was from Mr. Cheapo, and it was LL Cool J's 14 Shots to the Dome. And you know what's crazy is I think I've seen it there again because I didn't have it anymore, and I might have sold it back at some point. So it's used record stores. It's weird, the cycle that everything goes through.
Sure.
But so anyway, I'm wondering, are we going to get into John's background, or do you want to talk about the show itself?
Let's talk about anything. Like that.
Yeah, we'll get into the show itself because I want to definitely get more into what you do because just off the air I'm like it's gonna take us so many different ways.
I know.
So for the show,
do you guys have a time limit that you try to? Isn't it about an
until
hour?
we die? Yeah,
I feel we're gonna go longer. This episode,
yeah, we usually try to do around an hour.
Good. Okay.
There's too much this episode though. Between John's background and the show. I
whatever feels right.
Yes,
that's what we'll do.
And listen, I don't live that far away. We can continue this.
That's true.
If necessary.
But for me, I guess I'll start.
And by the way, if you give the whole set list, at least give a spoiler alert.
Here's the okay. You know what?
What do you mean?
I'm one of those people that doesn't like to look at the whole set list.
That's the perfect way to start. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ian.
Yeah.
Because on our social media, I put out a set list of maybe one of the first few shows, and Ian's like, you should take that down. It's like a spoiler, and I'm like, what? It's not like it's a movie. I don't get it. And I'm not gonna
Where did you put it?
Just on Twitter or Facebook,
But it was a picture. It
was a picture. It wasn't like
on this.
It's just because every week there's a set list from each show. I
mean, now there are, other than maybe like a song here or there, they're all mostly the same. But I will say this, and I will now agree with you, Ian, because even though it didn't take anything away from the show, and I loved it, I knew what was coming. Because my friends are like, what do you think they'll open up with? I'm like, well, I know it's going to be It's So Easy.
Yeah.
And I know, I'm like, at the beginning, how they amp up the beginning of better. I know it's better now.
Just being on Facebook and being curious, I couldn't avoid certain videos. I knew, because I was curious like anybody else, I knew they were going to play a lot of songs from Chinese Democracy. Everybody knew that. Not a lot, but you know what I mean?
Not everyone knew that. My friends didn't know that.
All right, I knew that much just because of Facebook in general. But I wanted there to be some element of surprise, so I didn't look at the full set list. So, spoiler alert if you haven't gone, I didn't know, for example, that they were playing Double Talk and Jive.
Oh, really?
And right when they played that, I was like, yeah, I can't believe they're playing this.
See,
I was psyched for that.
That's the one thing. That's the only thing, and that's my own fault. That's not the band's fault. That I did not have that moment like, oh my God, they're playing this, because I from the Troubadour show.
I had it in Vegas when they played Coma.
Yeah,
they didn't play Coma at the Troubadour, I'm pretty sure. So when they started that, I could not. I think that's fucking believe it.
Right, and I think that's different. But for what I did, the Troubadour and every show, Lollapalooza, I'm watching it, and so I've kind of in a way experienced the live shows already.
Yeah.
So Double Talk and Jive is one of my favorites. Not just off Use Your Illusion 1 is
right.
just in general. I love it. But I was only an element of a surprise because it could be for any band. You know, when sometimes you think of how they play it live, and Axl is great at this. There's like a specific live way he does things. Of what, like for example, You Could Be Mine was like with your ass in the air.
I knew you were going to mention
right,
that
but
one,
there's certain things that he only does live, and if you're a live fan of the band, you know that.
And the crowd will do it for him if he chooses not to.
Right, not everyone does that, and I like how Guns N' Roses does that. But he hadn't done until the first night, and it's off the Tokyo DVDs and Double Talk and Jive. He's like, home fuck, and it was just an extra added element of anger. And it was like, it's on my workout CD. I just want to kill someone right now. I'm on medication, I swear. And he did that the second time. You know, and I was like, you know what I'm saying? Home fuck. And I was like, yeah. That was like the one element of surprise. So that's the one caveat, and I can only blame myself.
Yeah.
But from the get-go, and I was standing, you know, being a handicapped person, standing, like those bunch of first few songs, it was just non-stop. And I enjoyed it. You know, Lenny Kravitz set the stage perfectly. I enjoyed his set so much, so I was amped. It didn't take anything away. You know, the Looney Tunes thing I think is funny. I would love to know the background behind it. But from It's So Easy and just straight on through, seeing my friends enjoying it as much as possible, especially my friend who really got me into them, to my younger brother who's going away to veterinary school in just a couple months, having that moment with him, and seeing this band, seeing Axl and Slash together, I have no complaints other than just the lack of surprise. And I can only blame myself. And it just adds more mystery to why Adler those only two shows. It's just really interesting why. Yeah. And that's it. That's really it.
One of the things I've always loved about this band, and I think like all of us have, is the element of surprise.
Right.
And I will say, if you checked out the set list prior, there definitely was no element of surprise to this.
No, and it was Slash's birthday. I kind of thought
cool,
maybe something else.
But there was no Adler. There was, of course, no Izzy. There was nothing crazy that happened. Like, there was no Sebastian Bach appearance or anything like that. And I remember people in the parking lot being like, oh, this is the only New York, New Jersey show. If any big, like, New York artist is going to come out, like, this is going to be the show.
That was
and there was none of that.
Yeah. It was that was a speculation because it was the location of the video.
Yeah, you would hope so. Like, I remember I'm one of the youngest people, I feel like, who got to see Pantera. At Nassau Coliseum. And I remember when they did Walk, Evan Seinfeld from Biohazard came out on stage.
Nice.
It was like, this is so cool. And I was expecting one of those moments, kind of, and it didn't happen.
But what does it say that we're expecting a moment other than just enjoying the moment, that this is actually happening? So that says a lot about this band, that they show up on time. But for me, I love the show from start to finish. If you've seen the show, even going on those sites, I don't know if you frequent like places like Blabbermouth where trolls live.
Sure. That
it's just so overwhelmingly positive. If you've gone, you know what I'm talking about. If you have yet to go, you will know. And I don't think I'm being biased. Because my younger brother, who was, mediocre Guns N' Roses fan, says, I had such an amazing time.
Did he say it was like the best show of his life?
Yeah, he said that I had such an amazing time.
People reach for complaints. I mean, and I think it's also a sign of how great the band is, because the music is so good, you don't even realize how spoiled you're being at the moment. You go to the show, okay, maybe you've heard that the set list is similar to the previous show or the other city's show, whatever. Do you realize what you're getting?
Yeah, right.
I mean, can just be thankful for what you're getting, but it's so good, you only want more. It's like any other great pleasure.
I regret not going the second night, which you did.
Right. Well, yeah. I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Was there any difference between that first and second show?
Well, they alternate Patience and Don't Cry.
Okay.
I saw one minor thing that I saw online was that this is such a minor, nerdy thing, but that we like because of the relationship with the band, that during Knocking on Heaven's Door, as Slash did the solo, Axl smiled and looked at him and said, "That's some badass shit."
Yeah.
He was like, "That's some badass guitar playing." Yeah.
They seem to be having such a good time and seeing, Melissa Reese.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that.
She's smiling the entire time.
She has a blast.
She has added such an element to that band, and it's just everyone.
But I want to know what happened to Pittman.
Well, wasn't there that? I mean, I know we've reached out to him, and I mean, I know we're kind of still a nothing podcast right now, other than emotionally, where we're big. Wasn't there a tweet he sent out or in a response to a fan?
I can't imagine that would cause him to leave the band or cause his departure. However,
and it could have been sent before, like he could have been fired before that, and then sent that tweet out of.
And he may not have
anger.
even been fired. Maybe he just didn't want. I mean, there was a rumor out that it was just a rumor talked about on forums that he didn't want to tour anymore. He would just record. I don't know, but
we'll never know with this band.
but in the insider, I mean, it's funny. Like my first show was 2006 at Hammerstein, and I was so happy to be there. I that to me was my real first moment of saying it's before me right now. What I've been pining for years is happening. It was a Monday night show at Hammerstein. You guys familiar with those 4 shows that happened back then?
I didn't go to them, but I remember I worked at Tower Records at the time.
Okay.
Why didn't I go to them? I'm just trying to remember.
Well, I remember hearing about them while I was working at Tower Records and being like,
what tour was this?
This is
or is it one-offs?
It was their first series of shows after the 2002 tour ended.
Because I went to the MSG 2002, which was the show before they canceled everything.
Right.
So I saw Buckethead. So that was crazy. And I'm wondering, because the other show I went to was their tour with, well, there was another one with Bumblefoot, and I saw that in Ottawa of all
that was
places.
after.
Okay.
That was after,
and then we went to the Roseland one, which was with Ashba.
And that was years later.
Okay.
That was 2012.
Okay.
But no, I remember this because, as I said, I was working at Tower Records, and I remember hearing about it and being like, yo, Guns N' Roses are playing Roseland. I got to go to this. But if I remember correctly, they sold out extremely quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I bought my ticket on StubHub.
There was StubHub back then?
One of those sites like that.
I remember it was before StubHub, I think. And I remember I wanted to go, but I think they sold out close to immediately, if I remember correctly. Because it was just 4 shows at Roseland, and that was it. Like another mystery thing with this band. Kind of like how when we saw them at Roseland, they played Roseland, they played...
There were the
what used
Webster
to be
Hall.
the Ritz, which is Webster Hall,
and
Terminal 5, I think.
Terminal 5, and then they did the Hero Ballroom show, which Jason shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I remember that was a whole element of surprise. Just like there was the Brooklyn Bowl show, which I went to. And I remember it was like a week or 2 in advance. It was like Guns N' Roses playing Brooklyn Bowl. And I remember that night being like, what?
I was out of
getting
town
tickets.
for that. I flew to L.A. and here they come to Brooklyn.
Everything was an element of surprise, man, because I also saw the show in Pennsylvania before they did the shows at the Joint in Las Vegas.
Okay.
In Bethlehem, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and that was the last show before they did Vegas, and that was kind of a one-off show. They were doing a few things before then, like Rock on the Range was around that time period.
Right.
But I remember just with that lineup of the band, or the previous lineups of the band, it was like, my feeling was always like, I have to go to this because you never know what's going to happen with this band.
No.
Right.
So.
Man. What to talk about with this?
Well, Melissa Reese, I wanted to mention because you were talking about her.
Right.
I do think she's added a whole new element to this band. For one, it is cool as a guy to have something to look at visually up there instead of these. What is it? 5 sweaty guys on stage at this point. Yeah. How many?
5 guys.
I have to count them all. Yeah, 5
or 6. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to name them all. But she's a hot chick. Let's be honest. I also think it's kind of like visually cool how she's got the crazy hair. She's like she's
made the band younger.
Yeah, she's rocking out.
It keeps its evolution going.
She's headbanging.
That's how I feel, and I've been following, whatever you want to consider a nerdy or millennial, or if I'm a secretly 14-year-old girl, Guns N' Roses on Snapchat. And there's so many, she's such a part of that generation, and you see her, at the show's over, jumping on Axl's back and hugging him, and I just feel like she's just added, for that next generation where this franchise is going to go.
Yeah,
so I love it.
I was going to say, so you see her visually like headbanging on stage and stuff with like the crazy hair is really cool. And then what definitely sold me being at the shows, I mean, you could see it a little bit on YouTube, but you could hear it more live, was like the backing vocals, especially in the Chinese Democracy songs.
Yeah.
Like Better, as we were saying, like she sounds killer on those songs.
Like she and Duff.
Adds an element. Yeah, her and Duff. The only thing that I wonder, and people have always talked about, is do we really need 2 keyboard players? Like, it's a genuine question. I'm not asking.
I always wonder that with Chris Pittman. I'm like, I didn't get it because I mean, I'm not a musician. You know, he did his job.
Yeah.
But now, like, I like the fact that Dizzy's been there for since the Illusions,
right?
And she adds another element, whether it's just being a female in the band and the vocals. Aside from just being another keyboardist. But you're right. I don't know musically why that works. It was like the same thing. Like when they had Bumblefoot and Stins, and they had like 5 million guitarists in the band. Do you really need all that?
But it's a very guitar-driven band. But
all you had was Izzy and Slash at one point.
Sure, but like one of the running jokes I've seen on the forums is how Dizzy plays the bongos during Welcome to the Jungle,
right.
And people are like, oh yeah, that song really needs bongos. It's like what people are always saying, and it's like with the keyboards, there's no song on Appetite for Destruction that has keyboards.
No.
So why do I need
Paradise
2
City
keyboards?
does.
Okay, Paradise City.
Yeah.
So why do we need 2 keyboardists up there? Like I like the backing vocals. They sound great. Melissa Reese adds an energy. I don't genuinely know what they both do in terms of the keyboards.
It just may make it sound fuller.
Well, I like your intro when you had the
Riyadh and the Better Ones.
Yeah. That I assume that was the sound that Pittman brought in.
Well, there was a whole other actually story behind that. I wish I knew the
sample.
Because there was
they took it from somewhere else, some like weird overseas.
But that element
musician,
to the, right?
But that whether it was like actually Pittman who physically did that on the album,
or found it,
or found it, or however the backstory is about that. But yeah, no, I like. Maybe they just add different things, with their different mindsets to it. Maybe,
yeah, like there's different orchestration that comes into the songs,
right?
That if you may not always notice it, but it's the band knows it's there, and you would subconsciously you're hearing it, and without it, you're going to miss it.
Right, and I think that's pretty much what it's about.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember seeing that lawsuit that one artist put, did years, but I don't know how that even ended up.
Yeah, I didn't either because it was so random, and I'm just like, I don't know. That was just, I was like, I don't care. For some reason, I guess maybe because that's my bias. I'm like, I don't care unless it's become something. I don't give a shit. Plus, that's probably like my least favorite song off Chinese Democracy, so I really didn't care.
I thought it was the
intro I love, obviously, but just I like it as a whole when I'm listening to the album from A to Z.
Yeah.
But just by itself, like if it just comes off my iPod, I'm like, eh. That's just me. But again, it's just me, just like being nerdy and nitpicking. I guess this I love for Axl is just his ode to whoever he's dedicating it to. I feel like it's the third part of November Rain, Estranged, and that. But to me, I would love to hear. And when I was listening to, it might have been before the Vegas shows and the sound check, because I think there's somebody like all shady outside, like having a recorder.
Yeah.
They were practicing There Was a Time. I really want to hear that live, really bad. And Prostitute. But I mean, to me, There Was a Time
in Vegas. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
That was pre.
I don't know if they did it like in the show.
I thought I saw them do that.
If they did, then I think so, then somebody correct me. But whether they did or not, I want to be there for it.
Sure.
Right. Well, I wanted to be there at Sorry.
Yeah. That's
what I wanted to hear.
Or even Catcher in the Rye. I mean, it's weird.
Crazy how many they're doing.
I found myself wanting, even though I loved obviously everything, but wanting to hear the new spin because it's not even like Slash and Duff or just hired guns.
No,
playing these songs.
They've reworked these songs.
They've reworked it.
They're owning it. I mean, listen, when I heard Slash, the little snippet from the Troubadour show when they did like the quick little, all right, and this snippet of Slash's solo from Better, that to me put me through the roof.
To be a fly in the wall for that conversation. How did that happen? And I was hoping really, because there's been a bunch of photos out now of the set list, including one of my friends on my Facebook, so I know it's real, and that Slither is an alternate song. I want that.
That's what I want to hear.
That'll be sick.
I mean, that's amazing. That just goes to show you where this band has gone.
And then people have wondered if they do that. Is it going to be Duff singing it? Is it going to be Axl singing it?
I mean, these are good questions to ask.
Yeah.
But for the 2 shows and the Vegas shows you went to, I mean, do you have a favorite? Because you obviously want to keep going.
I think my favorite has to be Meadowlands. I mean, because it felt very personal. I mean, but the first night I took
even more than the first show when they came back.
Yes.
Because didn't Jason say your friend, our friend now, I guess Jason Schultz said he got what he wanted. He doesn't need to see them again.
Yeah, and he's admittedly not a diehard fan.
He's silly. Like, I can't accept that answer. And he's going to go see AC/DC when they come to the Garden.
Axl DC?
Yeah.
After seeing Guns N' Roses, I was like, we were talking about, would we see Axl DC? I kind of want to now.
When the little spy leaks came on, someone visiting the Lisbon rehearsal studio, and I could hear "Shoot to Thrill."
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good it sounded. I'm going to use that term a lot. I could not believe it.
Sure.
But
it's Pee Wee's word of the day.
I had I was listening to Back in Black, and I was telling my wife I bought Back in Black and Metallica's
Black Album?
No. What's the song with and Justice for All?
Okay.
I went to Sam Goody and I got these 2 CDs this night. And so, but anyway, like I didn't fully embrace all this stuff until the day before April Fool's, and I found out about the Troubadour. I was driving down to Virginia, and Shoot to Thrill came on, and I feel silly admitting that it wasn't as familiar with the song. And then I see my older cousin that night who introduced me to AC/DC with Bon Scott when I was like a 5-year-old. He tells me he's a fighter pilot. He was in the Joshua Tree Desert flying. He told me the name of the jet recently, but they were whipping around trees in the Joshua Tree, 25 feet above the ground, blasting "Shoot to Thrill," and that image like straight out of Top Gun or whatever. And so then I hear them rehearsing "Shoot to Thrill." It was too strange, I'm like this. I need to check myself here. So when I heard the first show and how fucking good it sounded.
It sounded good. It sounded unique. It sounded different because it's not Brian Johnson. I'm more of a fan of the Bon Scott era of AC/DC. But it was, I think, just knowing that Axl is back. I don't know what happened. The shows that we've seen he was good at, but there's so many YouTube videos out there where it's gone. The rasp is gone. He's having an off night, but there hasn't been an off night at all.
No.
And I don't know if it's because when he was interviewed with Angus Young and Cliff saying that this is the first time he's ever rehearsed before. I don't know if his time with AC/DC changed a lot for him. I mean, it seems like he was changing, but this really may have added another element.
Wonder. I mean,
because you don't get better with age like that out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, like I was.
He's not doing steroids. He's not Barry Bonds of lead singers.
Right.
What happened?
I really don't know. Maybe it was just. I mean, you got to think from his point of view. Talk about a fulfilling a dream. I mean, this is all right. Maybe we should. In my project,
which we'll get to.
Okay.
We'll get to next.
I was asking. I met friends of his in his hometown, and
that's so cool.
And I was trying to ask, or I was asking, did he sing like that? What did he sing when he was younger? Because of course he did sing. Like he always sang with his range. I mean, that he's always been doing that, and he was singing Styx, Aerosmith, AC/DC, of course Elton John. But here he is. He's fronting one of his bands that he admired as a kid, and that just him doing it, getting that job, and doing it as well as he is doing it. That's inspiring to me.
Yeah. It's like that movie. Well, I mean, yes, it was based off a real story, Rockstar.
Yeah.
But when you're already a rock star, living your rock star life, that's such a weird, inception moment.
But it's almost kind of like the way he referred to his music when he was in that interview with them. He's like, AC/DC's got this high stack of albums, and I've got this little thing over here.
He was very humble about it. I think he really.
Well, your idols can fanboy out just like us.
They're human.
There was 2 other things I want to mention about the show, like just before we get totally off this. If that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I don't want to miss the moment to talk about these 2 things. One cool thing I thought about them playing the Chinese Democracy songs. I was expecting a lot of people in the crowd to be like, I want to hear Appetite, like I want to hear stuff from Use Your Illusions. they were into it.
They were into it,
It
but
was cool.
I noticed it wasn't as much of a round of applause as it was for the Appetite and
Where
stuff.
I was, and I was on the floor, I did not notice any dip in energy because the thing is also like those high notes that he hits on those songs on Chinese Democracy, like the singing on Chinese Democracy is way more dynamic than anything previously.
People respected it,
so
but yeah.
he was able to like show off his abilities a lot more during those songs than the older songs.
It may have been because most of them couldn't sing along with it because they didn't know it as well, so they weren't, the same amount of energy.
Yeah.
But I saw, like, especially after This I Love.
But I
think
didn't
it was
notice
like
bitching. I didn't see anyone be like,
no, I didn't see that. No.
And there was a lot of that actually during Van Halen. I noticed, not during the show itself. For me, where I was, like when I saw Van Halen the last time. But you know how all these people bitched online? They're like, David Lee Roth doesn't sound as good, blah, blah. And so this pissed me off as a fan. I loved it.
Which one?
Well, I saw the Jones Beach. I know you were at.
I was at MSG.
Yeah.
With, who opened?
Cool in the Gang?
Yeah, Cool in the Gang.
So, you know what pissed me
So
off,
fucking
though,
crazy.
was I remember looking for clips of the show on YouTube, after the show, just kind of relive the moment and all that type of stuff. And I saw a recording of someone like way up in the crappy seats during the show, and I heard someone next to the guy taping being like, just constantly being like, man, David sounds like shit. He sounds horrible. And I just wanted to punch this guy in the face because it's like, man, people can't just enjoy anything anymore. Like, if you want to see a guy hit every note, dude, I don't know.
He was never Pavarotti. This isn't America's Got
Go
Talent.
see Pavarotti if that's what you want to see, man. Like, I want to see a kick-ass rock band that does a kick-ass show, and that's exactly what they did. So that's I'm glad I didn't see any bitching from where I was during Guns N' Roses.
No, I didn't see any bitching. I guess because where my seats were, I was able to see the entire stadium.
Right.
It just didn't seem as intense of a reaction when the song ended. But everyone was clapping. I think everyone just like, wow, that's really good. But they would just. I think it was a lack of familiarity with those songs.
And I think also seeing Slash play, that also helps them probably appreciate it more. I don't know, but I, the what you're talking about, the complaining. The complaining is something that kills me. Like I just, choosing not to like Chinese Democracy or having total misconceptions about whatever happened to the band, since Slash left. It's all like the same kind of pattern, and these people are just targets for unnecessary attack. If it's David Lee Roth or it's Axl or it's any of the band members that came on after Slash and Duff quit, and that's another thing. Like people have this misconception or belief that Axl fired everybody in the band.
Right.
Like he's this evil guy.
We don't know exactly what happened.
I don't know. That's what I say. I don't know the guy.
But we do know that Slash and Duff quit.
Right.
And Izzy quit.
Right.
Well, we also know Axl brought in studio musicians, as we talked about in episode 1, that Paul Tobias was brought in and stuff. And to the band, that could seem like, man, this band is leaving me. It's almost like, I'm a huge, I know we keep bringing up other bands, but it reminds me of, I'm a huge Deftones fan. I like Deftones equally on par with Guns N' Roses. Those are my favorite bands. And Stefan, the guitarist, talked about how he couldn't really get into this newest album. Right. You know what? I can't get into this newest album, actually, and I love everything they do. But he had a quote in, I think it was Guitar World, where he was like, I hate to say it, but I don't feel like I'm leaving this band or anything, but that this band is just leaving me. He was like, I like bands like Meshuggah. I like really heavy stuff. And he was like, the heavy element of this band is gone, and I feel like they've just gone in a different direction, and they've left me here.
I think that happened with the lead singer of 3 Days Grace, Adam Gontier. He's like, this is just not the band, and he left.
Yeah.
And that's the face of the band. I mean, that's always going to happen, but we don't know the stories behind it. I think as a fan, like Blink-182 right now, I had a chance to meet them, and, I love Alkaline Trio, but to me that's not Blink-182.
Yeah, it's no longer.
But I can appreciate it. But I think as Ian and I, we both like Chinese Democracy. Yeah. I've said
I think that's great.
It took me literally 3 listens to really appreciate it because I had to strip away all that negativity. Not like I went into it with negativity, but it was just there. It was palpable. These songs that, I remember when certain songs come on, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, especially the opening chorus of Better. I was like, whoa, what is that? And then once I listened to it a few times and stripped it away and took it as what it is, of this piece of artwork, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just a great album. I can listen to it from start to finish, even re-add in the Bendowitz, and it's just a great record. It's the negativity, and that's what, we're here. That's hence the distortion part of our title. We want to get rid of all the distortion of it and appreciate, the people for who they are. They're just people. They're just flesh and blood. And this is just, I want to appreciate good music because there's so few good. There's not good music today.
Yeah,
it's not there, and if there is, it's like for one song, and you never hear from that artist again.
So the last part of the show I want to bring up before we get into John's background, because this is a big one for me that I'm wondering with all you guys, and for you especially, who's seen several shows now with this band. Are there shows of the lineup before this that you enjoyed more than this current lineup, or is this like the pinnacle of your GNR experience? Because I think I have a surprising answer, and I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, I mean, I love Slash. But some of my favorite shows are like my top 5. I would say Hammerstein in 2006 on Monday night, and then The Joint in Vegas on June 6th, 2014. That was just he almost played for 4 hours. And then the MetLife. Probably Vegas and then Detroit.
But so that means that you like the lineup without Slash.
Sure.
Why? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering your take on this.
For me, I never thought I would see Axl Rose in person, and when I got to see them on their quote comeback tour, the Chinese Democracy Tour in 2002, the show before they canceled the entire thing, and seeing Buckethead and seeing Robin Fink, and it was great, and I love Buckethead on Chinese Democracy. I love his playing.
Yeah.
But seeing Slash and Axl, it's seeing these two forces of nature that belong together.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds really queer.
No,
but I mean, whatever.
No, I get it.
That's what I think too.
I think that's just like I can't believe I'm seeing this. This is in a way tangible. The sonic forces are tangible. I'm not actually touching them. Wow, I really sound like a creep in the last like half a minute. Restraining orders are in the mail.
I didn't notice. I didn't.
Medication, remember I told you, Cybulta.
Okay.
I want to see Izzy and Adler in the band just to have that moment of just like this is who created Appetite for Destruction. But I'm very happy to have seen the band that really played a lot on Chinese Democracy, because I do like that album now, as I've said. Ashba didn't add it. I like him, and I was happy when he joined the band because I like 6 a.m., but he didn't add anything. I thought he got a little too single white female when he started wearing that hat. I'm like, Slash wears a hat. Why the fuck?
I mean, he brought that in from the beginning, I think, but
like he doesn't wear it in all like his other bands.
Yeah, and he also started smoking the cigarette on stage.
Yeah, it was a little.
With the hat.
Right.
It was a little weird.
Yeah.
I got to.
I even heard people say like, "Take off that hat."
Yeah,
at shows.
and I got to meet Bumblefoot. Was actually my first interview, and I feel some sort of kinship because he's also a Brooklyn Jew, and it was cool to see him. And I remember that I went to when I met him on the side of the stage because nobody else recognized him, and I since we're all the nerd fans, I went up the side of the stage when he was just talking to the security guard, and he signed my ticket, took a picture. And he pointed to me. I don't think I've never mentioned this to you, Ian. He pointed to me when they were playing It's So Easy because he recognized me from the conversation we had pre-show. So that was a cool moment. I felt like I knew somebody, so that was cool. But still, Guns N' Roses, yes, right now it's technically only 3. I mean, I'm sorry, no disrespect to Dizzy.
Yeah.
Melissa adds a lot. I am so happy that she is there. And I think, Richard Fortus is awesome. But I want to see the original.
But to answer the question, though, was MetLife the best Guns N' Roses show you've ever seen?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, here's the thing.
Long story short.
I'm kind of in your camp. I kind of, in a way, don't want to say this because I do think Slash is such a huge part of the band, and it was an amazing show. I am not taking anything away.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that last show at the Izod Center that I saw a few years back stands out to me as the best show. And I think it was partially because it's weird. It wasn't totally sold out, I don't think.
No.
I got to go all the way up front.
As far as I know.
I got to walk around, and it was just, there was something about the vibe that night that was just amazing. And sometimes it's something that you can't even put your finger on of this sounded good. This set list was good. It's just something in the air and something in the vibe. I'll tell you this because this is what I wanted to compare it to. When I think of my favorite shows I've ever seen in my life, one of the shows, surprisingly, that's up there for me is when I saw Vince Neil at the Downtown in 2004. Now, we all know, like, at that time, Vince Neil does not sound great. I think it was 2004.
And the Downtown, if you're not a Long Islander, was
tiny little
a very
venue.
tiny little venue.
Yeah.
Because I saw him at BB King's. It must have been the same.
Okay, so here's the thing. We all know Vince Neil does not. So, like, we kind of joked around about it with Anthony Bozzi. He doesn't sound great now. You know, he's not the best singer in the world.
He never was, but it fit.
No, but
Motley Crue.
even at that point, he was, you know, this 2004 is the point that he was like a drunk, bloated mess. All right. I saw during that show, I saw him drop a mic stand on a girl by accident.
Nice.
And because he was drunk. And I remember him going on stage and be like, what songs do you guys want to hear? You want to hear Girls, Girls, Girls? Like, I don't even think there was a set list. And for some reason, just the whole vibe of that show was awesome. And was the performance anything remarkable? No. By any means, could I be like, man, he hit all the notes? Hell no. But for some reason, I enjoyed that Vince Neil show more than any Motley Crue show I ever saw. And I don't know why, man. It was a fun vibe. And sometimes I can't put my finger on it.
Had you seen Motley Crue at that point? Already?
No, not at that point.
Okay.
So that might be it. Yeah, that was
because I didn't see him until the next year. That's one with BB King's, and I remember he was a total mess, and he somebody threw something at him, and he goes, "All right, this is gonna be the last fucking song, and you know, get a bunch of friends and take that guy and kick the shit out of him."
Dude, the second time I saw Vince Neil was I saw him at the that Westbury venue, which they've called Westbury Music Fair at North Fork Theater. I don't even know what the hell it's called. I think it's NYCB Theater.
At Westbury.
Dude,
it's like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim
I saw him,
theaters.
Yeah, I saw him walk off after like 3 or 4 songs the second time I saw him because all these girls ran up on stage and he was like, that's it. Like, he's known to be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, look at what he just got in trouble for on TMZ, like dragging some girl by the hair.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, he's out of control.
Yeah.
But like, I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy that show. I can't give you a specific reason why.
That's unique to you, and I think that's why seeing live music and music in general is so special.
Yeah.
Because we're not Simon Cowell's and Howard Stern's judging on a certain criteria. We're there to enjoy it. I mean, yes, we're all nerdier than the average fan, but for me, the previous show that I thought was my favorite, which still is up there, when I got to see, you know, now even more so, Velvet Revolver. I don't know if you've ever been to Star. I saw them twice, but the second show I'll just mention because. I mean, it was great, but I want to end with my favorite was it was right after college. A bunch of my friends, we went down to West Palm Beach, and we just had Velvet Revolver happened to be playing. So and it was awesome, you know. But the best show was at Starland Ballroom in Jersey, and for one, because it's in the middle of nowhere if you've never been there before.
I haven't been.
And you see a bunch of. We got there early because we had GA seating or standing. And we see a bunch of people just kind of running behind the building, and it happened to be Slash and Duff signing autographs. So I have like my Guns N' Roses shirt on my wall framed signed by Slash Duff. So that was cool, but that's not why. Because I was up against the railing, and I was, you know, an average Stone Temple Pilots fan. You know, I liked them. I wasn't like hardcore into them. And Scott Weiland forever changed me, like of my view of what he is at his peak. And I'm like, he is when he was on, he was just as good. The potential was there to be like an Axl. If he really wasn't such, unfortunately, you know, rest in peace, Scott, such a mess, he had the potential to be of that height, of that ilk. It was incredible, and especially, you know, I think I touched Slash's boot. Now I'm selling, wow, I'm a fucking creep.
I get it,
licked
I do get
Slash's
it.
boot.
Yeah, I just
Especially
being that close, and I'm just like, and afterwards, I felt like I was in a war zone.
And you have to keep in mind, when you say I touched Slash's boot, this is also I believe, you working in radio.
Where was I? I might have been in Cape Cod and came home.
But the reason I say
it
is because, like, once you've met all these people, it's not the same mystique.
Yeah, not for me. I'm a fucking geek. I guess I think I spoke on the air before about. I think I told Jason because he meets all these stars. Jason Schultz, from Rotten Cake. Give him a shout out.
New Flint Inc.
When I met Weird Al Yankovic, I was like a giggling schoolgirl. Like I got all flushed, and it was just it happens.
But even the idea of like I touched his boot. You know, like I think that when you don't meet anybody, like when it's like, holy crap, this is the person in the flesh before you got to meet anybody.
They seem like a fictional character.
Yeah,
Axl seemed like he was Howard Hughes for years.
Right.
So the fact that I saw him in 2002, why that show will always hold a place in my heart was we may never see this guy again. He has disappeared forever. He just shows up at these random Rock in Rios in Brazil, and that's it. But now, we can't stop seeing him.
Right.
But this show, just being there with my friends who I had just seen get married the previous day. My brother, going with them and seeing Slash and Axl on stage. This is just for me the ultimate. Now, I'm assuming, because now I don't know if you read the story. I think the production managers have said there's no timetable for this tour to end. Assuming they come around, I got to get closer. That's the next step for me, and I got to find, whether it's you, Ian, or not, I got to find somebody who's willing to spend the money on that, because I got to get closer.
I got a pit ticket for Landover on that morning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I told my wife, my stepbrother texted me and said, we're going to go to D.C. So I'm like, oh, damn. I'd already spent enough money, but I turned to my wife and I said, if I can get a pit ticket, I'm going to go. So within 30 seconds, I'm walking down the hallway. I'm going. I'll see you later.
She sounds like a good woman.
Oh man. Well, first of all, I'm very lucky that I'm still married. I mean, I know she's the amount of shit she's put up with. She's been having to hear about Guns N' Roses literally nonstop. I guess for 17 years.
And you just don't step inside to 17 years.
Yeah,
and that's 14 years.
Exactly.
I'll take it. I'll take it, Alex.
Exactly. And so she went to the show on Sunday night with me, and that was a big deal. So that the first night she couldn't go. She manages a restaurant in Brooklyn, so she had to work. But Sunday night came up like, you are going. It's like it's crazy for you not to go. You have to go.
Sure.
After all the shit she's had to listen to out of my mouth and all the stuff she's put up with, all the people. So yeah.
So let's finally transition after an hour as to what you're.
I knew we were going to go long. People are going to love this episode, dude. I'm loving it personally, even though I'm here and I'm part of it. So
this is a good conversation.
I mean, like I feel like this is a good segue too, because the reason that I latched onto this band, like I've been with my wife now for over 21 years.
Wow, congratulations!
Thanks, thank you. Yeah, and she's fantastic. I mean, I couldn't. She makes me think I get anything that I want in my life. Like literally, she's everything that I've wanted, and so it makes me think everything else must. No, but I mean, I think it's my spoiled only child nature. I think I'm going to get everything else. I think the world revolves around me. And
Axl Rose syndrome.
Exactly. So. She and I, we lived in Los Angeles for a little bit, and we actually lived directly behind Cantor's Deli.
Okay.
I didn't know the significance of it then, but I had a family issue. I had to leave. I went back to Virginia. She remained in California, and I moved to New York. And we never split up, but we were just away for a long time, and it was very, very difficult. I was trying to talk her back. And my best friend in Virginia, who is number one, he's a Rolling Stones fan. Number two is Guns N' Roses, and he's always been a Guns N' Roses fan. I mean, back when they first came out, like we literally at our beach week, the only tape we had was Lies, and so I heard it all day long, every day. That's all we played, and so
it's such a short record.
I know, but like believe me, like those songs are just fused into my. So he advised me. This is 1998. He goes, John, you got to listen to Axl. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I know you're going through a rough time right now with Ellen being gone, but listen to November Rain. So I went out and I bought all the music. I remember I annoyingly I chased her around, sort of walking around, singing the song to her. My favorite verse is the third verse, not the outro, but the third verse. But at that point, I had moved to New York, and Guns N' Roses was my fuel. It was what I woke up every day to it. Literally, I'd wake up and do a little bit of exercise and start Appetite.
Get out of bed around 7.
Exactly. And
see, I can quote lyrics in there too.
and it just steamrolled. I mean, it only got stronger. And when I missed tickets, I remember because we lived on 21st Street. I was walking up to work and I saw the sign, Guns N' Roses, and I raced over to the box office, and of course it was too late. I didn't even think about getting online or anything. I was even slightly following the early GNR Online website, and I missed my shot, and so in 2006, I'd taken this is where I met Jason. He and I were working together at Budokan in Chelsea. I don't know if y'all have been there or not.
I have not.
Big Chinese restaurant. It had just opened up, and the manager comes up to me and she said, "Guess who you're going to wait on tonight? And I said, I don't know. Al Pacino. No. Better. Better? Okay. Robert De Niro. No. Think music. Pearl Jam. And that's her thing. She's like, oh, I wish. No. Axl Rose. And she's bouncing up and down, and I just sort of froze, and I said, I'm not waiting on him.
You were supposed to wait on Axl Rose?
I was supposed to wait on Axl Rose's table, like a big table. Turned out it was him, and it was just about the whole band with his managers. And I said, I'm not doing it. And
too much pressure?
You also can't be professional. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, what can I get you to drink, Axl? I'm a big fan. I didn't even want to step near doing something like that. So I switched tables to this.
Oh, my God, man.
And so I was right next to him, and he was...
vagina, I'm sorry.
he had his foot out in the aisle. I don't think I'm going to spill a drink on this guy. And a lot of people didn't recognize him when his hair was in the cornrows.
Okay.
Yeah. And he also had a big goatee.
Okay.
And so I was pointing him out to my manager because my manager was like, you have to wait on him. I was like, no, it's like waiting on Jesus. And he goes, you can't say that. I'm like, well, I just did. Sorry. I'm not going to do it or I walk. I don't care. And because I was all cocky when I started this job because I've been working as an actor. I had a commercial going. I had a lot of money coming in, and I had a couple other films I'd worked on. So I was ready to leave that job at any second.
That's the story of New York too.
Yeah,
is that like you're someone doing a blue collar job to get by. But you have things going on.
Yeah.
But, even like our friend Adam Hamway, for example, like he does regular stuff in radio over at the Catholic Channel. It's serious, but people don't know he was the voice of Wendy's for a year.
And Nokia, and he actually made the second round of auditions for SNL.
So, people don't realize like you can't necessarily live off that.
No,
so
same thing for me. When I say I'm in radio, I have like 2 other jobs, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize like a lot of people have to work, just a regular job to get by, but it doesn't mean they're nobodies, So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and you always think you're going to be able to leave, You always like, I'm any second it's going to take off, and
they pull me back.
Right, and so. There he is, and then my table wants to get their picture taken with him. Of course, he's extremely nice because he gets up because they have to leave. He and the band, they're going to go to see some show that night. I don't know what was playing in New York that night, but my table of Irish tourists say, Axl, can we have our picture with you? And would you take it, please? But the shutter on our camera doesn't really work very well. I'm like, oh, this is great. So he goes, you have to sort of mess with it for a while. So Axl's lined up with all these Irishmen, and the shutter isn't working. And so Richard Fortas and Tommy Stinson are coming over to me. They're like, "No, dude, you gotta like push this." I'm like, "I know how to work a fucking camera. Just like they told me it's fucking broken." And so I could say, like, minutes are going by.
To me, that's more pressure than waiting on it.
Oh my God! And so I finally get the picture off, and he says, like they're all. Where are you from? Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And Axl walks right at me, looking me right in the eyes. If he's from 25 yards away, he's locked eyes with me. And I'm feeling like such a fool because he's there. I've caused him to be late now, wherever he's going. And he walks right up to me and then just, rushes by.
Beeline.
Yeah. And man, and I want to say, like, man, if you only knew, but
you can't miss those moments. I mean, I don't need to tell you. I'm not trying to pour salt, but I mean, that's still a cool story.
I wouldn't have. Listen, I've never spoken to the man, but I've been in his presence a lot, and it is never ever. It seemed like the right moment to speak. Somehow something. You gotta
make it that right moment. You want to know how awkward I will make it? And this is obviously in this not the level of Axl, and for whatever reason, if he heard this, he would say he would agree. Jim Brewer, he used to have a show at Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And so this is, I was working for the Catholic Channel. As a Jew, I hid my horns on my tail. They allowed me to work at the Catholic Channel. And this was like a Friday night. There's no one else in the bathroom. Half the serious stories are in the bathroom, not like George Michael kind of stories.
Right.
But, there's a line of urinals, and I'm at one, I'm peeing, and I see in the corner of my eye, I see Jim Brewer walk in. This is the biggest sort of like my career, and I'm like, this is like the biggest place I've ever worked at that I actually get to see celebrities and stuff, so I'm a kid. And I'm like, I gotta say something. This is the middle one, like, my dick's out, his dick's out. Again, not a George Michael story.
Right. I just happened to be out.
Yeah, just happened to be out. And I just go, pee next to Jim Brewer. This is the highlight of my career. Is Jim Brewer laugh? And that was it. I couldn't even follow up with that. But I made him laugh while he was peeing. Whatever. I had to say something. That's how awkward I am, man. So imagine what I would do with Axl. I would be nervous as shit like I was with Weird Al, but I would have to say something.
Well, I mean,
You'll have another moment.
well, yeah, and that's why I was told long down the line from there, 8 years later, I was told by his manager, like, you cannot act the way you are. Like when I met her, like I told her about what I've been doing, and she just said, like, if you meet him, like, you gotta please just calm down a little bit, because you're you're coming on a little strong, and I do that.
Okay.
And I've had to force myself to, like, be more soft.
I was like that with Weird Al, and
Okay.
thankfully he was cool, because I'm usually a little bit more. I have to, like, psych myself. It's like a hot girl, whatever. Just like, calm down. You're cool, man. Just like get off your sweaty palms and you're calm. But yeah, you're right. I guess I would have to kind of calm the fuck down if I was ever around the Axl, man. So I can't criticize you too much because I wasn't there.
But no,
I don't want to act like I'm big shit. Oh, I would have done this. I don't fucking know how I would have handled it.
Because I had nothing to say to him then, but and so, like, I guess a couple of years later, when I started writing and shooting my own stuff, editing my own stuff, I got the idea after watching lots of videos. Like, after the Hammerstein shows, I got into YouTube and all that, and so one of the videos was it was in Chicago of '92, and I think he's just finished singing Civil War.
Okay.
And he has this little talk about people in the crowd. He says, you always see they're about 18 to 25 years old, and they're all these real pot-smoking, rock and roll, judgmental fuckheads. And everyone cracks up, and he's like, he does an imitation. He's like, yeah, I don't know who those Guns N' Roses guys think they are. They think they're cool, man. I'm cool, but I don't know, man. And anyway, there was something about him being able to take that moment in front of 40, 50,000 people and put those guys in their place. Guys that I grew up with that I hated, that would, like, judge me on my interest or something that I felt strongly about, that if it wasn't cool, or maybe I put myself there a little too much. I was just vulnerable enough that I was a target. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why I identified with the music. There's something, there was an anger in the music, and there was
You felt like a target, right?
Yeah.
Because I felt like a target as well. So I think that, you're out to get me.
Right.
And I identified with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I loved it.
And being able to let that energy out the way that he does must just feel unbelievable. And to give him a sense of relief from, like, whatever stress or whatever's going on in his life.
And it's genuine, what I like, because you see a lot of rock stars today, you could see that it's kind of a costume. Like, you just hit up Hot Topic, man. I used to shop at Hot Topic or whatever. But you can just tell these bands who think they're bigger than life, but it seems like they're a costume. Like, Slash is that guy. When we spoke to Anthony Boza, like, he was a rock star before he was a rock star, like when he was riding BMX as a kid and all that. He was born a rock star. And we'll make the transition because we're going to find out what Axl was like before he became a rock star because of you.
Yeah, I mean.
So what is this project we've been teasing?
Well, after wanting to do a movie like the scene I was just talking about, or having a scene like that in there, I said, why don't let's just do the royal we. Let's just do the Guns N' Roses movie, like the Doors movie, like we can do this,
Right.
I've started writing. I know I'm very passionate about it. I mean, I just have to just jump in, and so I remember telling Jason, I said, I'm going to write the Guns N' Roses screenplay, and he was just starting his new business, and so it was a lot of. We were just as supportive of each other, and so I need to contact every single person that I can, any which way. And I started with MySpace. And
wow, because I was going to ask you, where did you start? How do you start a project like that?
Well, because I had, at that point I had Slash's book, which I really liked, and then I had Mark Cantor's book, Reckless Road. Do you guys have that book? You're familiar with it?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't read it yet.
And
he's a friend of theirs. He's a friend of Slash.
He grew up with Slash. He went to they were like in grade school together.
Right.
And then he basically documented the band. He wasn't the only photographer, but he was there during Slash's high school performances, all through all their early shows at all the clubs on the Strip and around Hollywood. Not all of them. I think he missed a couple, but he virtually documented it all, or videotapes.
And wasn't he the one that's saying that before this became inevitable, this reunion, saying that this is going to happen? Again, I'm going to be the guy.
Probably.
I remember seeing videos like going on online.
There was a video put out, and he tried to defend himself that he wasn't trying to claim that he could do it, but a lot of things get taken out of context. But still, I think he, even if he didn't mean to say what he said, he still put himself in a position where it would be taken a certain way.
Okay.
But so he was the first person that I reached, and he's like, I'll be happy to meet with you.
That's great.
And so when I had an editing job, so I used that opportunity in LA to go out there, do my editing, and have my meeting with Mark. And then I also met Chris Webber, who was the first lead guitarist of Hollywood Rose.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Because I was going to say that's a name I definitely know.
Yeah. Yeah, both of them were very receptive, and
I love the idea of meeting these guys who are they're almost like a footnote on Wikipedia.
Because you see them, you just see their images online, and they're just like it's
like
just
a footnote.
Exactly.
And you wonder, like, what are they up to now? Like, what is the original? The guys in Metallica who got kicked out before Kill 'Em All. Like, what are they up to now? Any of these bands. So, like, I'm always enamored by that type of stuff. I'm always looking at like the original lineups, and you do wonder that, like, where are they now thing, and like where's Terry Glaze, the guy who sung for Pantera before Phil Anselmo, like all that type, because how do you go back to like living a regular life?
Well, they do. I mean, like some of them are healthy and fine, and some of them unfortunately are not.
That's good that he was receptive, though, because you never know.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I told Mark exactly what I was doing, because I said basically I want to make a movie out of your book's time period. Like, to me, I looked at those pictures. If you see them, like, they're all these really intimate pictures at the Roxy, mainly some at the Whiskey, but mostly at the Roxy and Gazzari's, and there's a place called the Central, which is the Viper Room now. Okay. And a few
Isn't
other.
that where River Phoenix died?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a few other places around Hollywood, but I'm looking at those shots, and like you were saying, like, Axl is who he is. Slash is who he is. These are not cartoons. Like, I had another good friend of mine was trying to say some intelligent point to me that they all chose these sort of cartoony personas. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, look at them, listen to their names. I'm like, well, this wasn't something they chose after, they were this way before they got together. They may have honed it a certain way, but these are who they are. The different colors, the different names, the different sounds. Like, this is why it's so good. I mean, it's a miraculous combination of what came together. And so when you see those pictures, and I started to see the videos of some of the shows, you realize what people were witnessing there was something unbelievable. It was they were creating an experience for those people that no one could imagine could be. Axl got out there, and I mean, you hear Duff talk about it. I mean, like, the ferocious energy that he would just erupt from him, or Slash's virtuoso guitar skills. I mean, this coming together at that time period when whatever 80s bands were people were getting tired of or whatever, it was something that everyone needed, and it's almost like it created a movement. So,
sure. And everyone wants to be there at that movement. You always look back in retrospective, the movement of Nirvana, the movement of the Beatles, but to actually live in that moment and not realize it, I think is pretty special.
And then people developed a need. Like, they as the band got bigger and bigger, people needed what Axl and all of them were providing. And so, but in those early scenes, I felt like what they were doing could be recreated or shown. People needed to see this in this age of music that's done on computers and whatnot, but seeing real musicians getting out there and putting out 1,000% effort and blowing people's minds away, in these little clubs, you could see this, the cigarette smoke is still in the air. You can almost smell like the spilled beer. There's like an air of sexuality everywhere, or like there's always that threat of violence, like any second, like someone's gonna get hurt. But either way, it's great, and like that's what we need to. That's what I want to make. And so, so I told Chris, I said, I'm doing a movie kind of about the glam scene in Hollywood in the mid '80s. And so he goes, okay, I'd be happy to meet you. And he, pointed out a coffee shop, in West Hollywood near where he lived. And all of a sudden there's Chris Webber, who I'd seen in that video. It's called The Prettiest Star or something, Axl Rose or something like that.
And you might know this because, as I know, you're kind of an encyclopedia for Guns N' Roses. Did Chris Webber, if I remember correctly, did he co-write any of the songs on Appetite?
Anything Goes.
And play for the Warriors? No.
What?
No, yeah.
Oh.
So that name does come up.
I'm sorry, I had to say that.
Yeah.
So wait, Anything Goes.
Yes. I don't know.
But there you go. I mean, he's a part of the legacy. He's not just a guy who was there before. That's big, dude. You co-wrote.
He wrote
a song on Appetite.
Reckless Life.
Okay, so there you go.
And Moved to the City.
Which is such a great song. And we talk about how these are all regular guys, and yet they're not in a way. But in our own lives, we may have had a friend in elementary school, for a lack of a better, example of someone said something to you in a class that shaped, that you never forgot to this day. Mm-hmm. So it's the same. It's kind of like the same parallel. That maybe Chris Webber said something to Axl, or they had an experience together that shaped, that made him go down this path to where we are today. So you just never know. So I want to know his perspective.
Yeah, I got to hear about meeting the guy. Okay.
First of all, the guy was in high school.
Right.
And Axl and Izzy were they're 21 years old, or older. This is 1984, so they're 22 years old.
I was 1.
Yeah, and so like I tried, I'm putting myself in his position, like as a 16-year-old kid, you got these two older guys. 16 to 22 they're adults.
Oh yeah.
And like
that could be like a dangerous situation.
Yeah,
it sounds like an after-school special. Like potentially can go wrong.
But his parents kind of encouraged him.
Good for them.
They lived up on Laurel Canyon, just above, and that's that classic area where Jim Morrison lived on Laurel Canyon, or like members of the Eagles, or and Slash actually lived off of Laurel Canyon. Okay, there's an image from his book where it's hard to believe if it actually happened, but he took his big wheel. Laurel Canyon literally goes up to the Hollywood Hills and down the other side into Studio City, and the other side is just where my wife's uncle lives. But it's this windy road that everyone uses to get over the hill if you're not going to use one of the major highways, and it gets. There's a few others, but this is really popular. And so, but the cars are just everywhere, constantly busy. Slash, as a little kid, he said he got on his big wheel and rode down Laurel Canyon to Sunset Boulevard to go over to live at Toys R Us.
His big wheel.
To me, like that says it all. One of my friends thinks I'm ridiculous because I wanted to put that image in the movie. That like his fearlessness, like no fear of death as this little kid, like that's what comes across in his guitar.
That's such a cool image. I mean, I hope it's true.
Yeah, even if it isn't, I want it to be.
It's a good potential myth to have about you.
Yeah, and so I certainly
big wheel player.
I certainly wrote that into one of my early drafts of this movie, and I've down the line, my advisor was the guy who wrote Randall Jansen, who wrote The Doors. Okay, and the first thing he said to me, he goes, look, they're not going to shut down Laurel Canyon for this, so cut that scene. like there's no way that's going to happen, so don't even try. Get rid of that right now.
You can rebuild it with Legos.
Well, he's just and when he even told me before, he sort of took me on as a client because he was sort of like he would read and evaluate. He sort of became my teacher in a way. And he what did he say? He goes, you know how hard it is to get movies made nowadays. I mean, at this point, George Lucas had struggled to get some movie released. It wasn't one he directed, but it was something he produced. It was about a World War I fighter squad or something. Anyway, so he was discouraging that scene. But yeah, how do we get off? How did I get over to this topic? So Chris Webber, right. So his family lives up in the hills, and he housed Axl and Izzy for a while, and here are these guys living at his house in this house in the Hollywood Hills, and that's where they rehearsed. Like there's a rehearsal recording somewhere on YouTube where they're rehearsing Anything Goes, or it was called My Way, Your Way at the time.
I believe I've seen that video. Yeah,
it's not even a video. It's just audio.
Okay, because I've seen something of that era. Maybe it's a picture that I'm remembering.
Probably.
And then, over it, because it's YouTube. You have to have some sort of photo.
Yes, but then there are other videos that they made from that time period, like right behind his house in a gazebo, like they're
right.
And so I think it's after they recorded the demos, which became the Hollywood Rose CD. So. I mean, what can I say? I don't want to give too much away, but it sounded like Chris was introduced to quite a, force when they came into his life. Like first of all, he the way he spoke about Izzy was really fascinating, because I really didn't consider much about Izzy, early on, but at that point, Izzy became the most interesting, the most mysterious kind of character.
Were they heavy into drugs at this point in time?
They got into it. See, this is unclear. Chris didn't really go into detail about that or tell me specifics. He did end up having some problems later on. Obviously, Izzy did too. But for other people that I met after him, it sounded like Izzy was into that way beforehand.
Okay.
But you got to consider, Izzy moved to Hollywood right out of high school. Like, gets in his car, drives by himself.
I can't imagine doing that.
No.
I was such a bitch in high school. I would be too afraid.
Drives across the country.
Mom, can you do my laundry? I couldn't do that. I mean,
I totally get it. Yeah.
And so this guy loads up. He was a drummer. He's a drummer at first, right?
No, that I didn't know.
He started as a drummer.
As Jason said, wealth of Guns N' Roses knowledge right here. Like you.
All right, first of all, Jason went to Lafayette with me.
Okay.
So he's seen all these places. He's been to sort of ground zero. I call it that. I mean, there's a couple of ground zeros, but
sure.
but
we know, yeah.
But there's no, but I mean specifically for Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
So Izzy, Jeff Isbell, got in his car, loaded up his drums, and drove to Los Angeles right out of high school. I don't know exactly when, but I know he did do it. And Axl did not go then. Axl came later, and Axl hitchhiked across. He actually went across a couple of times. But I mean, these are things that people know. I mean, you can look this stuff. Like, I'm not giving anything away.
But you're creating the visuals for these now.
Yes.
Because you mentioned before that you wanted to create the Guns N' Roses movie, but off the air, you said this transition because you're talking about
because this,
which I kind of find more fascinating is the
stuff,
the prequel, if you will, to Guns N' Roses, of how these characters came to be, because these are larger than life characters. This isn't just a band that created popular songs. These are iconic figures. I've said a lot that you could be a sorority girl and Guns N' Roses songs. You know these songs. I mean, you cannot be a rock and roll fan and oh, that's Slash.
Right.
That's Axl Rose. You may not know, unfortunately, oh, that's David Lee Roth. Oh, that's Eddie Van Halen.
You do know it. I mean, it was funny, though, like when Slash came to Budokan as well one night, and this little hostess comes up to me because somehow she was prompted to go and let me know that he was going to be coming in this night. And this little thing comes up to me, and she goes, are you John Miller? I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm supposed to tell you that there's a Slash coming in tonight. Don't know what that means. I said,
well, shame on her. That ruins my whole example.
Well, I mean,
I have another Slash story. The because is funny. But...
What, the Ninja Turtles character?
No.
I watched an episode with him this morning.
That's great.
Well, I did say, I said, you do know who you're talking about, right? And she goes, I'm like, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise, Guns N' Roses. She goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. So
more often than not, she's an anomaly. But more often than not, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, no, but it was funny. I mean,
that is funny.
Yeah,
that is funny.
And I told her, I said, do me a favor, because I can't be at the front door. Send me a text when he's here, and
now it can just be an emoji with the top hat. Send me an emoji.
Exactly. And So he had this big party coming in, and he was the last person to arrive. I was running the restaurant's huge, just a couple of floors. I'm running all over because I of course just want to meet him, and finally I see this big bodyguard who was actually, you see him on the side of the stage at the shows.
Yeah.
And there he was at the top of the stairs. I'm like, oh my God, so he's got to be here now. So I ran to the front desk, and there's Slash. He's leaned over, he's got his baseball cap on, he's got, he's in Chuck Taylors, and I don't know what happened to me, but I forgot that he doesn't know who I am. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, I got you over here. His now ex-wife. And I'm like, your wife's down there. Your friends, Gilby Clark's down there. I got them all set up. And he's just kind of like, all right. And
he just went along with it.
And then I said, and I thought to myself, John, he doesn't know the fuck you are. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. All right, I'm really excited that you're here because first of all, I've been writing a movie about your band and
wow,
and I've been working with your friend, and I'm gonna be bringing a script to you, and he's like, what? And
it's too much to handle because I'm just trying to go.
That's a lot to process.
Oh yeah, and I did it to Duff too. And another.
I love how you're as awkward as me.
Oh my God! I mean, the Duff was worse.
You know what, though? I think if you met the only guy I've met is Steven Adler, and I think he'd probably be more like, right on,
he was
dude.
The one
he
that
seems so laid back, man.
I had a connection
awesome.
to him. He said no, he didn't want to meet me.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Through a friend, one of the guys in his band, Adler.
Wow.
Asked him if.
All right, so back to the Slash story.
Yeah. So I'm leading Slash down. And he was nice. He just kind of looks at me and goes, thanks, whatever. And so when he's leaving, and I walked to him again, I said, thank you so much for coming in. It's really, really great. And he goes like, who's let me ask you something. I'm like, oh yes, he's gonna ask about my movie. He goes, who the hell has got the money to put into this restaurant? I'm like, oh God. Well, his name is Steven Starr, and he's got all these tons of restaurants in Philly and all that and stuff. And he's just like, okay, man. And I'm like, but I really hope we can looking forward to talking to you again about the thing I told you about. He goes, yeah, we'll see about that. And I'm like,
I'll tell you my really quick.
I mean, because it's it's a time and place thing.
Yeah.
And I'm
that's
sure
what Duff said to me.
See, that's what I learned from my therapist. You never. It's like he wasn't expecting it, and I'm sure he's just there to chill. Like it's hard. How do you figure out, because you want to do that,
right? And
you met him. Like, how do you pick the right time, if there is a right time?
Okay.
Like you said with Axl, you haven't found that moment to talk to. So it's hard. I mean, I'm not there, and I may have handled it worse or better. I can't judge you. I'm the fucking king of awkward. But I just think that's so funny, just his reaction, and just those. If anything, those stories alone that you've been telling are. Even though they may not have ended the way that you wanted them to, are still pretty great in itself.
Oh yeah, no, believe me. The other thing I'm working on is the story of trying to get this thing done.
Yeah.
Because people will say like, that's the real story, like that's the really interesting one. I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, nobody knows who I am. No one wants to know my story. But like, yeah, but it's the people that you've met and stuff. I'm like,
sure.
And I've met some I've met some unbelievable people.
But those are the stories you really. Like, you'll see a lot of the documentaries on Netflix. You don't know who these people are, but the stories, man. Like, they come out and you give it time, it's like, wow.
I agree.
So I probably, just from what I've heard thus far, I don't disagree with your friends.
Yeah.
That maybe the story of just getting this done could be just as amazing as the actual.
And it could be a feature on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll tell you my Slash story real quick, because it relates to his, of people like being like, how do you not know who this is? So as you know, as a lot of the audience knows, I work on a political talk show, The Locale Majority. And the way Sirius is every now and again in the fishbowl, there'll be someone doing this big performance right there in the lobby. And it's not like you can go out there if you're working on a show and just, appreciate the whole performance. So I heard that Slash was playing in the fishbowl. I'm like, I got to walk out for a little bit and catch some of this. And I actually had to walk out and go get the, pretty famous economist Peter Schiff out there. Mm-hmm. And Slash is, wailing on his guitar, playing some soul. And I see Peter Schiff out there, like, on his BlackBerry, just typing away. And so I said to Peter Schiff, I'm like, oh, I don't know if you noticed, that's Slash right in front of you. Like, and you could hear it. It's not like it's it's silent in the lobby. They're playing it out through the speakers. And he's like, oh, all right, that's cool. And like,
he's an economist. What do you want?
And I've met his brother, Andrew Schiff, who works with him. And Andrew Schiff is a little bit more human, I guess you could say. And Andrew's been like, yeah, my brother's a huge nerd. Like, he doesn't even know who Slash is. But
he'll appreciate it later though when he thinks about what he got to experience.
Maybe the economists are weird guys sometimes. I really respect Peter Schiff just as.
Oh, I'm sure, but I mean, there are people who don't know. I mean, who Michael Jordan is.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
which
why
is crazy.
That's why when Muhammad Ali just recently passed away, that he may be the most famous athlete ever. That he can go to different continents and countries, and everybody will know who he is. I mean, it's very hard to get to that level.
Yeah,
but I mean, there are Guns N' Roses and Axl and Slash mentions in movies, in cartoons, with South Park, Slash doesn't exist.
I love that
Wanda
episode.
Slash.
Yeah.
Or it's so funny. My mom, she watches reruns of Blossom. This is might be the weirdest sentence I've ever said. Reruns of Blossom, and she's like, Blossom and Six, they got in trouble because they were supposed to. Because my mom's a Jew. They were supposed to go to the Guns N' Roses show, but they couldn't. They snuck out and they got grounded. So there was like Guns N' Roses mentions in Blossom.
Yeah.
She actually DVR'd it. So I'm going to show it to you next time you're over. I'm like, all right, Mom,
That's
thank
funny.
you. So I mean, they're in pop culture.
Yeah.
So it's
well, I was just going to say, like, we're not going to be able to get into the whole film and stuff. We definitely have to do like a part 2 of this. But I'm just wondering, so like, who are the other big players that you got to meet in the universe other than Chris
And how long
Webber?
have you been working on everything? How long have you been working on it? Where are you at?
When I started writing in 2011, but when Mark Cantor, Chris Webber first meetings happened in 2010. That's when I first got the idea. I was still involved in other projects of my own that I wanted to finish first.
So this is like your Chinese democracy, though, a little bit.
Maybe, because I certainly, it's. I mean, it's touch and go here and there, and sometimes I feel fantastic about it, and other times I'm just totally depressed. I'm like, what am I? How delusional am I?
That's so normal, though. And just quickly before we get into that, just because I mentioned South Park, and it made me feel better. Maybe it might make you feel better, which is what makes me bring it up. Is there was this documentary about making of South Park, not just the South Park shows, because I believe it was like 6 days to air.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was either Matt Parker or Trey Stone saying that
Trey Stone or
Matt Parker.
Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Whatever.
Yeah,
they're
like, what?
Yeah, whatever. That's a mistake. You can correct me on it.
No.
That he just got an order at McDonald's because that makes him feel better because he thinks like every show is shit. and of course they win countless awards and the show has been on for 20 years. So I mean those are people who have made it, so to speak, and are brilliant in my mind.
Right.
So, not like I need to tell you, you've been in the business longer than I have. So it's that's normal. I guess that's normal.
It's just how things come together is that's
you're making
the difficult
progress.
part. Yeah, no, like 6 years ago I approached somebody about putting money into it, and they at first the reaction was and this person has a lot of money, he's an investor, businessman. He just goes, who the fuck are you? Like why would anyone allow you to do this? And I'm saying I'm not trying to.
Why? That's such a great if he actually says that. Why would anyone allow you?
Yeah, it allows.
That's the worst thing you could say.
It's like everyone. You got to reach a certain level of qualifications or something. Yeah, but I got what he meant, and
I get it too.
And I said, and he was still thinking it was going to be a documentary.
Most
people assume it's going to be a documentary. I just think there's been enough documentaries, and there was going to be a huge documentary before Slash left. Like all that footage from the Illusions period, like that stuff exists.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and like when you look at those things online, I don't know how they've leaked or not, but like the Chicago shows, the show from St. Louis where the riot happened there, like all that stuff was shot on purpose professionally by the band.
Okay, because I recently finally saw.
I think. I don't want to make that claim.
Then I want to know who shot. Because, of course, we were talking about before when Axl broke his leg, that he also broke his leg back in the Illusion tours. And there's video of him on the tour bus.
Robert John was the photographer, videographer, I believe.
Okay, because it's just there are videos I'm first seeing now, and they don't seem like just fan videos. They seem like real behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. So, I mean, I would love to see the Chinese democracy behind the scenes. That in itself is a movie. Yeah. But... So where are you? Like, so who else have you spoken to?
So the other Hollywood Rose guys, the drummer, his name is Johnny Crease. Later on, there's Steve Darrow, who's a bass player, and then the LA Guns people, like I met, Tracy Guns and
cool.
Rob Gardner.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't met him in person. We've just been on the phone a lot.
Okay.
I read about him a little bit. The other book that I read was Here Today, Gone to Hell.
Yeah.
There was a little bit about him.
Yeah, I mean, like these were the
original,
the original band.
Yeah,
you know, it's funny because some people won't say that that's the original band. I got a big sort of argument with Jason and his friend. You know, they're like you can't tell us that the original band is not Axl and Slash. I'm like, yes, I can.
Yeah, I mean, then you're talking about the actual word of original. What does that mean?
I still consider the Appetite lineup like the original.
Well, that's the one that was first the world was introduced to.
Yeah.
But there was this same thing with like Nirvana. There was a million drummers before Grohl.
Yeah, but who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing with Metallica. How Dave Mustaine said like I should have been up on that stage.
Yeah.
And it's like should you have been? And then also, man, I feel like we can do a whole nother episode about this. But you got to meet the guys one of the guys in Rapidfire.
So, like, I wanted to know what Axl was like when he was younger. Like what did he go through? But I'm drawn to the voice. I'm drawn to the attitude, the sense of humor. You know, the stage.
Sense of humor is like that's something else too.
Yeah,
100%.
The guy's like a great sense of humor. And so I'm like, what fueled this guy? And what made him? I mean, he tells the story in a lot of the Rolling Stone interviews and the interviews with Del James, who was actually very helpful to me.
That's so cool.
He, I reached out to him right away, and I wanted to collaborate with him. I was like, you and I can my dream would be, the Guns N' Roses movie by Del James and John Miller. He's like, he wrote me back. I mean, I got his email, through channels, and he was nice enough with the fact that I just invaded his privacy. And he said, "Listen, I really appreciate your passion. I respect your your tenacity, but
who the fuck are you?"
He was much more less blunt about it. He just said, "Your project is not for me."
Okay.
And I said, okay, but I
can't wait until this thing becomes huge, and all these people who said that this is a stupid project, like that, you get to rub it in their face. I hope that happens.
I mean, I would.
Dude, in the world of Netflix, you never know what's going to be huge.
You never know, and your heart's in the right place, and you seem to have mapped it out right and know what you're doing with it. And I can't imagine. And I can at the same time the challenge that is going into creating this from nothing. Essentially, and you have to start from somewhere. And I know it's taken you a while just to get to wherever point you're at now. It's difficult, but you're doing it, and I'm assuming you're making progress. You haven't stopped. You haven't scrapped it. I mean, I joke that this is your Chinese democracy, but it eventually came out, and it was good.
Yeah. Well, There's so much, like, I'm trying to just see where I am, like, I see this timeline in front of me.
And I feel like there's so much more we can cover because we were explaining the Rapidfire thing to you, Brandon, because he knows a little bit more about it than me. But it's like, to me, the Rapidfire stuff seems like a whole nother episode. It's just, by the way, this episode right now is proof of when we talked about in the first episode, and when you and I were saying, people were coming up to us saying, are you really going to be able to talk about Guns N' Roses on a podcast like week after week? And the answer is, hell yeah, we can.
Well, there's a lot of different... it's a giant web.
Yeah.
Not just of stories, but of people who are involved.
Yeah.
And we talk about music in general. You talked about your history with just, music and where you come from in filmmaking. And we relate that to us in radio. So there's a lot of web, and of course, Guns N' Roses is, I think, a bigger nucleus to people's lives.
Yeah, people connect to it in a particular way. I mean,
and I think that's why it's great that it's not just a Guns N' Roses story, that now it's morphed into an Axl Rose story, because he is a character, and he's a mysterious character, and with all these
he's an incredibly misunderstood character,
and where all these rock stars are dying now, he may be the last. I mean, we almost lost Joe Perry. Thankfully, we didn't, but we're losing Lemmy, we're losing. Scott Weiland, we're losing, Prince. I mean, it's where's the next? Who's going to be the next? There may not be a next.
Yeah, I
want to know, and that may inspire the next Axl Rose. This story. Hey, you know what? I'm misunderstood. I'm weird. I went through this also. Yeah. I can become that. And it's not just a glamorized story of, here's the band that became famous. No, this is the backstory.
And he said that in the shows. Like, if you just hold on and believe, and you'll get what you want. If it's love or if it's dream or whatever. I mean, he was that kind of guy who was in
he doesn't have superpowers. He's a real dude. I mean, it happens.
But it's like he leads by example. I mean, so
Well, real quick, I was going to say, I've heard Jamie Josta from Hatebreed talk about on his podcast, like, there's going to be a time where we're not going to get to see Iron Maiden live and like Aerosmith live and all these
think Rush
bands,
is officially done
it's
touring.
It's crazy when you think about that, but I know we don't want to go like 3 hours here. You got stuff to do tonight, right?
We're approaching the 2 hour mark, so
okay.
we go 10 minutes.
I'd like to have you back to go more in depth about the rapid fire stuff, because to me, I find that fascinating when it's Kevin Lawrence, right?
Yes.
When Kevin Lawrence put out that video about him funding this Rapid Fire album, and rest in peace to Kevin Lawrence, I was like, man, I cannot wait to hear this album and just hearing the story. So if you could kind of just quickly give an overview of like meeting Kevin and him putting out this album of material that no one had heard before, to me, that's a huge part of the Axl Rose story, and we can't cover it all. But I mean, just kind of.
I'll tell you about the first meeting of it. I mean, I just wanted to speak to Kevin to ask him what it was like to work with him when he was that young, and but I had to go through his lawyer. Like there was a little website up on that always say, contact Joshua Solomon at Joshua Solomon Law, something like that. and I had written him before, just inquiring about the music, and because it was a basic web page. It listed the track names, the players, and had a picture of them. And
the player was Bill Bailey, right? It wasn't Axl Rose,
right? And so Joshua wrote me back on my second email and gave me his number, so I called him. And I have a tough time taking myself seriously a lot, I mean, I
join the club.
God, I mean, I feel like everyone's just going to start cracking up whenever I start talking, and a lot of times I get flustered and all. And so I call this guy, and his name was intimidating as it was. And then he's a lawyer. He's in Los Angeles. He represents this musician, and the way he spoke, he had this incredibly deep voice, and he took so much time in between sentences, sometimes words that it was unbearable sometimes because I felt like I was on trial. He said, "You do realize how difficult this project or reaching Axl is, right?" I'm like, I think I do. I have an idea,
right?
And so after a long conversation, he just wanted to hear me, I guess, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to come to Los Angeles in the summer. Let's meet in person. We'll talk some more." And he's like, "I'm going to be there this date." He goes, "I'll be in town then." I said, "Okay." So I didn't talk to him anymore. I flew to LA. It's the first person I called when I got in, and he said, "You want to just come to my place in Santa Monica?" I said, "Sure." And so I'm expecting this like gruff little dude in like button up shirt with Oxford shirt, rolled up sleeves, and short dark hair and angry and all that. Instead,
little Ari Gold.
Yeah, exactly. This guy opens his door. I mean, we're in Santa Monica. This guy opens his door. He's a surfer dude. He's
nice.
got this long gray curly hair. He's got moccasins on, jeans, and a short sleeve.
And wait, who is this?
This is Kevin's lawyer.
Okay, because I would say this isn't Kevin Lawrence.
No. The lawyer had to screen me first, and he brings me in. He says, "It's a pretty cool place," and so we're talking. He just wants to know why I got involved in this, and why am I doing this? And he's hearing me out. I'm there for about an hour, and he finally goes, "Do you want to hear the music?" And I had forgotten music even existed because I figured it was going to sound like anything else. I'd heard all the Guns N' Roses demos that I could find, all the Hollywood Rose stuff.
Sure.
And so he puts this CD on. First he wanted me to take my backpack, so I didn't have any recording device or anything, out of the room. And I said,
wow.
Absolutely. I was going to volunteer that, and so he puts it on, and that first song, Ready to Rumble, started. Yep. And it's a very fast-paced song. I didn't quite know what I was listening to at first. I thought I thought this was some other band that was on this CD that we had to listen to first before the Rapid Fire songs start. And I looked at him and I said, what's this? And he goes, "This is it. If you can hear the music, you'll know what I'm talking. Like it's just like a hard rock, almost punk rock song." And all of a sudden, the voice kicks in, and again, I'm not hearing it. And then on the first refrain, Axl takes the voice up to like this, takes it into the stratosphere.
From dusk to dawn, I'm searching all the time for something new. Catch a little action, honey, I'm looking for you. Come on, are you ready? And where do you wanna go? Come on, are you ready? Come on now, let's go.
And I'm like, oh my God. And he was like, yeah. And so by the third voice, he does this sort of step with it, and he reaches this pinnacle and holds it. That it's just I was blown away. I got goosebumps. I didn't know what to say. And they're very basic songs. I mean, they're not. It's not Guns N' Roses.
Yes,
I mean,
I agree.
it's very different from Hollywood Rose too.
Because other than the amazing sound of the voice, it sounds, to be honest, like a generic Sunset Strip band almost.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad that I can't go. I went bananas when I heard it, but it's what it is.
Yeah,
and it does rock. I mean, people loved it when it came out. But the fifth track was a slow version. Not a slow version. It was like a slow ballad. It was just Kevin on guitar, and then Axl singing, and it's basically a love song. And Kevin wrote all this stuff in high school, so it's also it's young lyrics, And I right away after having gone to Axl's hometown, driving cross country several times, sort of knowing like where he going up to the Bronx to see where he climbed up out of the Cross Bronx Expressway into Washington Heights actually, and I could see the whole story in this song, and I just started weeping because here's this kid who has left his hometown basically forever,
right,
to start a new life. He's surrounded by people that he doesn't know very well at all. He's probably terrified, yet thrilled as anybody to escape what he left behind in Indiana. And now he's recording music with this guy who he ran into at the Troubadour one night, and I just I was in tears, and of course it sort of locked me in to them that they can trust me, that I'm not just playing around.
Yeah, and I get it.
Yeah.
That they have to do their due diligence.
Oh, sure.
And make sure that you're going to do all these people right, and in addition to all the legal stuff.
Well,
but they probably care about these people.
Well, because there was a very difficult legal battle happening that I didn't know about.
Okay.
And Axl's lawyers were trying to put a stop to him releasing the music because on his website he was using, or he had used the name Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose, and these are licensed trademarks, and they said you can't do that, like you're basically, this music wouldn't sell if not for that,
Right.
and so they were trying to overcome these difficulties, and so Josh was in the middle of that sort of off and on sort of legal battle, and so I heard a lot about it, and they were having some big plan of how to release it at the 30th anniversary kind of thing, and I was trying to tell him, please don't do that, just keep the music hidden, and Kevin was sort of in dire straits. Kevin was this guy who he had grown up he was born in New York, moved to LA with his parents. He moved up near San Francisco, but went back to UCLA to go to college and become a rock star. And he happened to meet Bill Bailey outside of the Troubadour one night. And, it was, he claims they only hired him because Bill had his own PA system.
Yeah.
And, but
sometimes that's all it takes.
But I've heard differently.
Okay.
But, or at least he didn't even have it at his audition or whatever. Who knows? But, yeah, so, I got to spend a lot of time with Joshua and eventually, because I would only talk to Kevin on Skype.
Okay.
And then I got to meet Kevin. I drove up to see him. He was living in near San Luis Obispo in this little town called Cayucos, in this little beach town. And he was living by himself. He just had his dog, and he really he was sort of in financial straits, and like so he was going through a rough time, and he wanted to get this released. Not because it was, at one point in his life, this was a huge dream of his, and I think that the battle only spurred him to try harder to get it done. But I don't know. It just got ugly. Everything got really nasty and regretfully.
Then is this all, because I know it's cool that you're kind of giving us in a way a audio documentary of it now, and your film is not going to be a documentary. So is this though now going to be all portrayed? What you're telling us now, is this going to be part of what's acted? What is the
time period stuff? Certainly, nothing to do with what
So I guess we can wrap up soon as far where.
Yeah, and part 2 will be a little bit more rapid fire.
Because we want you back. Because we want to we want to whatever we could do to give you an outlet. If there is a GoFundMe for your film, where can people follow you? Where because we want to keep getting updates because we want to be on the red carpet when this premieres. Where are you now with this project? And is like the stories you've been telling us. These are the stories that we are going to eventually see. Not in a documentary style, but acted out in a la the Doors movie.
Yes, exactly.
Is it going to be like in a way that we're going to be seeing like like in the Doors movie, how you mentioned, or how it's almost famous where you are involved in the movie and there's somebody going around? Okay.
I don't want it to have this story to have anything to do with me at all.
Okay.
I mean, I think Axl's story is too important to sort of
deviate onto.
Yeah.
I get it, because I know we also mentioned how your friends were saying, and we agree, Ian and I. I'm assuming that your story of just making this movie is interesting enough. So
yeah, I'd like to have that a separate one.
I got it. No, cool. So where are you at now, and how could we get updates on not just this, but like what you do? Just
I will let you guys know personally, but
we appreciate.
I'm trying to reach out to get a director for it.
Okay.
And then, in the past, I've reached out to producers. They've had difficulty with the story angle, so I had to rewrite it. Right now I'm trying to get a director. I've met the Guns N' Roses management, so they're aware of me. I don't know how. I mean,
that's a step, I guess. Yeah. This is a hard thing. Just like that lawyer said to you, in a very intimidating way. But I get it. This is a big undertaking. But I think it's not. I'm assuming thus far, and in the end, will be a very rewarding undertaking.
I hope so. I think that it could be. I want it to be an important film on the same. It's an American film. I feel like I've used that term too loosely, but if you look, like, this is a kid who came from nowhere, and look what he's become, and he did it not in an indulgent, what am I going to say? I haven't talked to Axl, so like that's the thing. Like that's what the story is like in terms of I say it's based on a true story. It's based, but it's not. It can't be the true story because I don't know the true story. Like, I have my own ideas and I've fabricated scenes, and I've met lots of people that have backed up.
You're doing your best while having to take a creative license.
Right.
I get
so
it.
do we have any idea of when it'll be out? Or,
no idea.
No? All right. Do you have anything as he kind of asked you? Is there any social media we could follow the film on? Or
no?
I kind of like that though.
If there are people who want to reach out to help you, how can they reach out to you? Or because you said you're looking for a director and you never know who,
That is true. There's got to be an email address or something.
Oh,
carrier pigeon, P.O. box. Do you have a Twitter handle?
They can always reach out to us.
I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Sure.
You're MySpace.
Yeah, John Miller's, bro.
Right. I am.
Friendster. Come on, man.
I'm just.
Or can they just go through us and then we'll reach out to you?
I sound crazy because Jason told me this years ago. He was like, "Dude, you got to own this thing." I'm like,
"Yeah, I agree."
But you don't understand. Like, this is it's highly sensitive.
Well,
and that's the issue.
If there's anyone who happens to be like someone who could really help out with this, listening, definitely reach us on our Facebook page or
I'd
Twitter.
love to talk about it
at the AFD Show for everything. Appetite for Distortion. And we'll reach out to John and like we'll make it happen, man. I can't wait to see this thing, and I really hope that it actually comes out. I don't want this to just be a dream that never happens. Like, you got to go for it, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Dude,
It sounds like what you're doing, which is what I think what we discussed, what we want this podcast to be. This isn't our show, in essence, referring to Ian and Brandon. This is our, as far as the Guns N' Roses universe, as far as listenership, the music fans. It sounds like that's what you, as a fan, are doing this. So if there are other fans out there who want to get involved and help out and create it's not the Guns N' Roses movie, it's the Axl Rose story and all the important players that came around that want to help get involved. I mean, how awesome was that if you're able to help out, whether it's old photographs, I'm assuming, or stories, people that you may not have met, saying, I knew Axl, or it's 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, knowing people, because this guy's a friggin' mystery, man.
Right.
We're trying to crack that nut.
right, and that's why I want people to know. I want people to know something that's true about him, and not something that rumors have created. And
And I think, like you said, this is an American story. I think that's really cool in a world where, people think some people think that America isn't great. That this is showing that where you can go in this country. And in this world, and where how fucked up your life could be, and there are a lot of people that think their life is fucked up and there'll never be anything. Mm-hmm. Look where Axl Rose is right now, man.
Yeah, I mean,
it's quite incredible that where he's just the hills and valleys. It really is just a fascinating story, and I don't think even just to us as Guns N' Roses fanboys. This could be. It's just like whenever you see a lot of these movies, whether it's on Netflix or the big screen, you'll see like the Ray Charles movie come out. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all knew the lovable Ray Charles at the end, but seeing what he went through as a kid, man, that's what the story is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a real story. This isn't Spider-Man. They got bit by a radioactive spider. This is real.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got bit by a radioactive rose and you got the power to sing or whatever. That'd be kind of badass, but. I think there's an awesome story there, and I'm glad somebody is doing it.
Yeah.
And you seem like the right person to be doing it.
well, thank you. I mean,
So-
it feels good to talk about it.
Will
A lot off your chest.
Seriously.
Brandon and I will definitely be back, I think, in a couple of weeks. We seem to be doing every 2 weeks. That seems to be the pattern for the most part.
Yeah, I usually end with the quote that, we won't end at a specific moment, but just I usually say, when they came back in the VMAs with Jimmy Fallon, saying, when Kurt Loder asked, is it going to be out soon? I don't know if soon is the word,
Right.
but you'll see it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of our method, our motto of the podcast. You'll see it.
Yeah.
You'll hear it.
It should be 2 weeks or so, but I do know you might be familiar with him, Stevie Rochelle, who started Metal Sludge, lead singer of the band Tough. He's got some great...
He knows Kevin. Well,
Yes.
He knew Kevin.
So he's got some great stories from the Sunset Strip. He should be our next guest, I believe.
Sweet.
I was texting with him, and he's out with his family this week, so he's just got stuff going on. But he was like, hey, Ian, definitely interested in coming on. So he'll probably be our next guest, and we're reaching out to anyone that we can in the universe. And, dude, this was, and I'm not just kissing your ass because you're here, like, this was a phenomenal episode, man. Like, you really do have an amazing wealth of information, and also you came in here saying like, hey, this is my first time doing radio. Like, dude, you're naturally great at this, man. I really have to say, like,
You're a good storyteller.
Thanks.
Yes,
I'm sure that
and,
translates to
like,
the script.
when this
Thanks.
movie comes out, and it better come out, man. I really want to see it. Like, you're a guy who's gonna be perfect doing media for this stuff. I truly believe, man, because it's
Cool.
been fascinating talking with you. We wouldn't be able to do this 2 hours if like you didn't have the story.
This is literally our first conversation with you, which is so cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's the power of Guns N'
Well,
Roses.
I'm really honored to be here, and I really appreciate you
don't have to be
inviting me
honored.
and being able to be.
We're nobodies.
But just jump back to what you were just saying about bringing in guests. On your last show, you mentioned you might want to try to find Paul Hughey.
Yes.
And that's one guy I wanted
Is
to
it
talk
Paul
to.
Hughey?
It
Is
is
it really?
Paul Hughey.
Okay.
And it doesn't. Of course, you would think it's
Hughey?
huge.
Okay, I mean, if his name is Hughie, no wonder he's not in the band anymore. That's
Well, I
I
think
It's really Paul Tobias.
I know, but Hughie, what is he?
and that's
brand of
that's an
diapers?
interesting story too. But
Have you met him?
No, I've not met him.
Let's
but
get Buckethead on the
he-
show.
yeah, but
We'll
he-
talk to a puppet for
If
2
you
hours.
could get us Chris Webber on the show, bro, it would be amazing.
I'll ask him.
That would be huge.
I mean, you never know.
it's going to be huge.
Anyone who wants a platform, just to have good conversation about rock and roll, about Guns N' Roses, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we are. You know, and that's why this was a cool conversation to have. Whether thankfully it was on tape, we would have enjoyed this just as much if it was just at a bar.
Awesome.
So I think anything else you want to get out there, since apparently you're also like Axl, you're off the grid. So if anyone wants to contribute, they'll go through us.
I like that. I mean, like I said, like I've been so used to it being a careful thing that I've been doing. That
Okay.
Maybe maybe I'm wrong. But like
you have a method to your madness, and who are we to mess with that? So as long as you're continuing to make progress, you're happy with it. We're happy with what you're doing.
I think you just gotta, set in stone that this thing is going to come out, because like I could tell you it would be a shame if this doesn't come out. It seems like there's been so much that you've put into this, and
completely unrelated. It took Corey Feldman 10 years to put out his new record.
Well,
I only know that because of I edit interviews at iHeartRadio.
I love Corey Feldman.
I love Corey Feldman.
And I just had to cut up a Corey.
Exactly.
I know, but I just had to cut up a Corey Feldman interview, and it's like 10 years to make a Corey Feldman record. So I figured this was a good time to mention something really random and weird. So whatever.
This is what I'll say is that I'm not going to say the director's name, but I reached out to this director,
Spike Lee. No,
and they know how serious I am about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot really emphasize how I believe this one director is the perfect person to do it, based upon previous work and perspective.
Well, also think about how long it's been taken for the Motley Crue movie to come out, The Dirt.
Yeah,
I remember interviewing.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I interviewed Nikki Sixx over the phone when I worked in Cape Cod, and that was, like you said, that was 10 years ago. They were talking about this.
Yeah,
it's eventually going to come out. Same thing with the Queen movie. It sucks that Sacha Baron Cohen isn't going to do it anymore because he wanted to do the AIDS Freddy, but they don't want to do that. So I mean, I get it. I mean, you're in good company as far as that. These things take time, and especially if you want to do it right, you're doing your due diligence. And what I take is the most important thing is your heart's in the right place, and you have the vision. You're doing it. You're not just like, this isn't some pipe dream, metaphorically, and also you're hitting the bong. Oh, this would be cool, man, because there was this movie. You actually are doing this.
Yeah. Anyway, please spread the word of the show. I really want this thing to grow, as does Brando.
Absolutely.
And write a review on iTunes. That is huge for us. It really is. So leave a review on iTunes, and tell people about the show, man. We're doing what we can. We have stickers. I was handing them out at the Giant Stadium show, and we're doing what we can, man. We really want to get this thing big.
This is only episode number 4, man.
And I think that these discussions are awesome. I mean, this is personally my favorite episode so far, man. So thank you for coming in.
Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Yeah, we're going to do this again soon.
Excellent.
I don't know if soon is the word. Well, whatever. I already said that. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Brando and Scotto, dissecting all things Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at The AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/The AFD Show.
Yeah!